It's 12:35. We'll call this work session of the Lake County Board of County Commissioners to a beginning. First up, calendar review led by Sandra Pettis. Sandra, take us away.
Alright. This should go pretty quick. Next week looks fairly light. Monday on the 30th, you'll have a special meeting from 4 to 6. Tuesday the 1st, you have your regular meeting from 11 to 1:30. Childcare Coalition monthly meeting is from 5:30 to 7. And regular city council meeting is held from 6 to 8. Wednesday the 2nd, community coffee from 8:30 to 10. I have nothing on the calendar for Thursday the 3rd. And as we all know, Friday the 4th is Independence Day. I looked at this is on E911's calendar, so that's why it's still on there. I'll have to take that off, but other than that, we should be good to go. There was a few things added to the consent agenda for next Tuesday's regular meeting, but the regular items, there's like 4, including me and Sammy, so it's really short. So should be an easy day. Alright. These. And then you're welcome to sit up here, Amy, and run this too if you'd like, or you can, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, and honestly, we sent through the PowerPoint, which we really don't have to bore you guys with and go through slide by slide.
Let me know if you need.
Mark, do you wanna?
Sandra. Hey Sandra,
Yeah, what do you need?
can you just show me
We could just sit
your
here.
regular meeting?
Well, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
It doesn't,
Oh, you're fine.
That way you can go through your week.
oh god, it's 7/1.
Mhm.
I kept looking in June, I was like, girl, there's no more in June.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
How could it be July already?
Get out of here. Oh my god.
Alright, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, hi.
Hi, I'm Elsa.
Hi Elsa, I'm Amy.
Amy, nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you. Thank you all for having us. I'm here with Mark Probert, who is our current board president for Treetop.
Nice to meet you, Mark.
Nice to meet you too.
And just a little history of me.
Yeah, a little bit about myself. So I'm president of the board of Treetop. As of January 1st, I'm a civil lawyer in Breckenridge. Before that, I had 30 years of prosecution, including a decade in the district attorney's, as the elected district attorney up here in Lake County.
Oh, really?
And as 30 years of prosecuting child abuse and child sex assault cases, this is something that's been the Child Advocacy Centers have been something that always been near and dear to my heart. So it's always been something that, and actually when I was DA, I tried to start one and we had trouble getting money, was a problem, so
Yeah.
funding. So, and do a little name dropping, my wife Kathy is the district court judge up here, so. so
Name dropped.
Oh,
Whoa.
yeah, that's a big name drop.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's
Statement made. That's awesome. What a power couple you all are.
Yeah, they sure are. Amy Oliveira, Executive Director. I believe I met with you guys last year, so thank you for your time and thank you for your support. So ultimately, you guys know who we are and what we do.
So we're a
believe.
fully new board, remember?
I didn't know that.
Yep, we're a fully new board, so even if some of us were here as constituents,
Great.
all 3 of us are brand new county commissioners.
Okay, well
Yeah.
then I'm happy to go through this PowerPoint
Yes,
then
thank you.
with
That's-
you.
Yes, thank you.
Well, quickly, just to share who we serve, so we serve the 5th Judicial District, which includes the Clear Creek, Lake County, Eagle, and Summit counties. Our vision is a community where all children and families feel supported, safe, and empowered to pursue justice and who are experiencing abuse. Our mission is to support child victims of abuse and their families through intervention, advocacy, and support services. And our values are trust, respect, equity, and education.
Tree.
Tree. You got
Very
that.
clever.
Ah.
I love it.
Little history here, back in 1985, District Attorney Bud Kramer heard of a child who had to tell their story 6 to 10 times to different agencies after experiencing abuse. So he decided to create a system that better served abused children, and he created the first Child Advocacy Center in Huntsville, Alabama, which is basically considered the NCA, so National Children's Advocacy Center is based out of Huntsville, Alabama. In 2018, Treetop was established through Bruce Brown, who was the DA at that time. I don't know if you guys are all familiar with him, but he was a huge advocate to creating and founding Treetop in 2018. Push forward, here we are in 2025. We are doing great things, quite honestly. There has been a restart of the organization, but since 2024, I began at the end of 2023, we have done a ton of work in 2024, which includes moving to a brand new location. We're currently next door to Town Hall in Breckenridge, in the Breck Professional Building. We have brought on a case manager to assist with wraparound services and assist with Medicaid enrollment and Medicaid eligibility. Well, let me just move on.
Well, and also too, I mean, just kind of the basics.
Thank you.
Since you got a brand new board and probably many of you are not familiar with the criminal justice system, which is fortunate. The Child Advocacy Centers provide forensic interviews to children of sexual assault and abuse. And we also have child advocacy, so that they provide ways to get treatment and that sort of thing. We don't provide treatment, but we give them the resources. These forensic interviews are absolutely incredible. They're actually what helps us get convictions and get justice on these horrible cases for these children. So.
Yeah, so when a child discloses or reaches out with an outcry to a mandated reporter, a family member, a friend, whomever that may be, the referral will come through law enforcement and or child welfare, DHS, and our family victim advocate will then coordinate with the family, our forensic interviewers, law enforcement, the DA's office, and the child and their family will come into our space, which is a safe, supportive environment. It is not a police agency or a sheriff's department.
It's a play spaces. You guys have like lovely play spaces to do your interviews, right?
Yeah, it's a very secluded, quiet, private area. It just allows the child to feel welcome. Our interviewers and our advocate build that rapport with the child. It's kid friendly with games and cards and snacks and drinks and beverages, and that's the first thing that we say is we're here to support you and we're here to hear you and hear what you have to say. We're not here to interrogate you. Our interviewers are trained to provide open-ended questioning and building that rapport, and ultimately we are supporting law enforcement and the investigative party to start that investigation and open up the case to potentially bring to the D's office and potentially prosecute the perpetrator. So currently our team consists of myself, our operations manager and family victim advocate, so most of us wear multiple hats, and we also have a bilingual family victim advocate and case manager, which is a huge asset. 66% of our cases are Spanish speaking, so being able to speak with our families where Spanish is their first language and just providing that comfort, trust, and building that rapport is huge. So that was something that Mariana actually began last November, and that was a huge bonus and benefit to our organization. This is just our org chart. So Kaylin is our marketing development, who we brought on actually last February. Mariana began in November, and our operations and family advocate just made her 3-month review today. Our board consists of a representative from DHS in Eagle County, which is Melissa Barber, Mark Hurlbert, who's our attorney. Dr. Casey Cowie is the CMO for Lake County Elevated Community Health Center. And Detective Thomas Wright is at the Eagle County Sheriff's Office, and Jenny Wood, who works for federal,
for
the state.
Yep.
We have done some transition recently, and we are recruiting some additional new board members, but we do like to have someone represent several different sectors that are related to what we're doing for the community and the organization. This slide just basically shares the Child Advocacy Center model. So it begins with the forensic interview. Again, that is a recorded conversation between a trained interviewer and the child who has unfortunately have been a victim of sex assault, physical assault, witness violence, or neglected in their home. We then collaborate and host a monthly meeting in our space, and we work closely with our partners, which include law enforcement, DHS. St. Anthony's is where the same program is, and we utilize them for our sex assault nurse exams and our FNEs, which is forensic nurse exams. Our advocates, the district attorney, and a representative from mental health services. So ultimately, each month we go over every case that has come through Treetop and has remained open, whether they're waiting a warrant or there's custody issues, or Mark, you could probably dive into that a little bit more, but ultimately, from the beginning, from the moment we receive a referral, we are with the family, the direct victim and the secondary victims, which are family members or siblings or caregivers, and we are there.
Witnesses, we've interviewed witnesses to this as well, so.
Yeah, and so our advocates are there right from the beginning. So even when they come into our space, we do mental health assessments, we do needs assessments, we go over Medicaid possibilities. We are assisting with resources in the community, whether they need clothing or food or mental health services. Even if they need support going to court, where that could be extremely overwhelming, just understanding the verbiage and really not knowing what courtroom to go to. So our advocates are there throughout the entire process. There are many times where family is just very confused about going to the hospital and need that support, so our advocate will support them there. And as I mentioned earlier, we support the direct victim, but we also support the secondary victim. So if we have a family that comes in where the father just learned that his brother's been sexually assaulting his daughter for 2 years and is in crisis, so we are working with organizations and resources to support those kind of circumstances. So our multidisciplinary treatment team is hosted once a month. It's the second Wednesday of every month, where all our partners come in and we go over all outstanding cases that have not been closed and any new cases within that month that we received. And our family victim advocate is there to support them from the beginning throughout the entire process until the family's like, you know what, I've received everything that I've needed and you've been a great support and we're looking to just move on with our lives. Or we have families that are sticking with us for quite some time, and our advocate is staying in touch with them on a weekly basis. So that is our multidisciplinary treatment team. In 2024, we served 53 direct child victims and 87 secondary victims were helped. It is ebb and flow. I'll be honest, we average around 80 to 100, but to date, in January 1 to date, we've actually seen 40 direct victims, which is insane.
Whoa.
It's actually almost double, because last year we were at around 20. It is double, actually. So I think that, Mark could probably speak to child sex assault cases and abuse cases. They are ebb and flow. A lot of it has to deal with being in school and summer vacation or family vacation, or really just knowing that we exist, to allow that opportunity for a child to know that they can speak of their abuse or what's happening in their homes and raise that awareness. I actually do have some printouts with more stats that I'll leave with you guys in our annual report. But this just shares the impacted counties, so 36% for out of Summit, 34 out of Lake, 9% out of Eagle, and 21% is listed as other. Even though we do serve the 5th Judicial District, we will never turn down a forensic interview referral. So if a family is struggling with a custody battle and dad's in Jefferson and mom is in Summit, we will serve that case. We've even had Homeland Security come out from San Diego, California, just doing, unfortunate cases at the border where children are then speaking of abuse, and we will assist them here in Summit County, or in Summit County if a child is living in Silverthorne or wherever. So that's the other category. So we'll never turn down a forensic interview. Types of abuse, this just shares our percentages. So in 2024, 54% of our cases were sex assault. Physical abuse was 30%, 7% is witnessing of violence in the home, and then 5% is neglect. It also shares the race and program, so 65% are non-white, God bless you, and 35% are white.
Is this all minors, like anybody under 18?
So we serve 0 to 18.
Yeah.
Which I think is the next slide.
Okay.
Or maybe not, this just breaks down Hispanic, white, black, mixed, and other. And then age and gender statistics, so 61% of our cases are female, and this is 2024, and we do have every year listed in this handout that I'll share with you. But ages in programs, so in 2024, 53% of our cases were 13 through 18 range, but it's ebb and flow. I think in 2023 it was 7 through 12, so it just varies, but we do see children from 0 to 18. Types of offenders, this could be a little alarming and shocking. 70% of our cases are family members, 17% are friend, teacher, or acquaintance, and then 13% is other.
Would other include, like, intimate partners,
So it could
or would
be,
that be under acquaintance?
it could be sibling, it could be,
It wouldn't be family?
actually that would be family. What was I just thinking? It could be, you know, a 13-year-old met a guy on social media.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it would be
yeah.
that category.
Like a stranger?
A stranger, exactly.
Yeah.
This slide just shares as of January 1st of this year, we've completed 7 forensic interviews out of families in Lake County, 40 total. 20 of them were sex assault, 14 were witness to a crime, and 6 were physical abuse. So that just shows where we are to date. And then Treetop is really working on our strategic goals. One of our biggest goals is enhance community awareness and achieve operational excellence and sustain financial stability. A big portion of our funding source is BOCC, which is the Victims of Crime Act, which unfortunately has diminished dramatically. In 2024, we were cut 50%, and in 2025, an additional 33%. So we do rely heavily on our local government and our community partners to support our nonprofit. So our strategic goals are really looking to sustain our financial stability. This just shares more of our strategic plan, just working on governance, operational efficiency, community partnerships, and again, just that financial stability. We do have an in-kind grant writer through the town of Breckenridge, which is an area that we really need to dial in, is the grant program and grant applications. As I said, we kind of restarted in 2024. Treetop's been around since 2018, but there has been some turnover with executive directors and board restructuring, location. So we were fortunate to receive an in-kind grant writer, the town of Breck, and she's just very limited in time, and grants require a lot of time and effort. We are a small organization, ultimately there's 4 of us, so we are doing our best in regards to just finding opportunities for grant.
Well, now we're all in the same, not all of us, but like now, so many of the people who are dependent on VAWA and BOCC are all fighting for a smaller part of the pie.
It is, you know, the one thing it has done though, I guess if there's a little bit of sunshine in the clouds, is that it has forced us to diversify a little.
Yeah.
We're not so focused on this one grant, you know, we have diversifying our grants, going to fundraising, and then also, you know, increasing our relationships with local governments. I think that is really, I think it's gonna make us stronger in the long run. It's really not great now, but it's certainly, I think, will make us stronger in the long run.
It's a good way to look at it.
It is, and it's so important. I mean, honestly, I know every nonprofit wants to share the same news, like our nonprofit is the best and we're the most important. But honestly, we are serving.
You can make it really easy.
Compelling our story.
Who would fight it?
It is compelling, right? We are serving children who are suffering and struggling from abuse, who are one of the most vulnerable populations, right? And they don't have a choice, they're in it, and if we didn't exist, especially where we are in the rural area and in the mountains, children have to go to Denver, and who's gonna take them to Denver, right? And it's just a vicious toxic cycle, and we are never going to stop abuse, we're not gonna stop substance use, we're not gonna do any of that, but we are here to support the child to start the healing process and potentially prosecute the perpetrator, right? So this slide just basically shares the cost of care per child, and that healing journey, which includes the forensic interview in a child-friendly setting, advocacy and crisis support for the entire family. Again, it's just not the direct victim, it's the secondary victims as well. Access to trauma-informed mental health care. We have linkage agreements with Malaha Behavioral Health, with the care clinic, I can't say care clinic, it's the Elevated Health Center.
Good job, cause we haven't got.
Sorry. Coordinating with law enforcement and child welfare, as I mentioned, once we receive a referral, we do all the coordinating, making sure everybody's on the same page when we come in for the interview. We offer the bilingual services and medical care access, and then the continued advocacy and support for as long as the families need.
Do y'all receive any funding through DHS for your wraparound services?
So Summit County DHS supports us, and Eagle County DHS also supports us.
Okay.
Yeah. And we talked about that when we were actually here last year, and Lake County, I believe this year, we received support from Lake County in the 6 years that we've been around. So we thank you for the support we received in 2025.
It's like $15,000 or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why we're
Whatever
here.
we can do.
Whatever
Yeah.
you can do, we're so thankful and grateful for. But huge milestones in 2024 is just basically sharing the child advocacy and support, community collaborations, behavioral health partnerships, and our forensic interviews that we've obviously are our highest priority. And this just shows our supporters, and thank you. I hope I covered everything.
Well, I mean, one of the things I think is probably where we've gone, I mean, what we've been doing, and she didn't mention, we were able to get a mobile unit so that we can go to various places, not everyone just has to come to Summit County where we're at. Which also helps a lot, which is a huge benefit. Cause when I was DA, we had to go down to Jeffco was the only place we really had a child advocacy center. Either they got taken down there by law enforcement, which isn't great, or the parents would have to drive them, and most parents either were working or just wouldn't do it, and so you'd lose a lot of people, and so we're even making it even easier for people.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's so interesting with grants, so this is actually one grant that we did receive, but it's so specific to equipment only, so we're like, okay, it's so ridiculous. So we were able, when we moved, prior to our move in August in 2024, we were in the basement of the library in Breckenridge. And it was supposed to be a temporary space. It was very cold and dark, it's a historic building, there wasn't any windows or light, and we actually had like space heaters everywhere. So that was one of the main goals that we were really shooting for, and we were able to achieve that. And then since then, we were awarded this grant for equipment, and we learned, well, let's get a better recording system. So we went with researching and finding Casecracker as one of the best recording systems for investigations, and microphones and cameras. And then they offer this mobile unit, which allows us to do interviews on the road, which has been very handy with our with Eagle County. Eagle County was really utilizing a river bridge, which is located in Glenwood Springs, which is the 9th, and it is best practice to utilize the CAC within your district. So we've been able to establish some in-kind locations in Avon, and then kind of travel over the pass to support those families in basalt and gypsum that may not be able to come over the pass in the winter and come on over to Breckenridge.
I was about to say I've had friends whose experiences have been that it's hard to get the kids down there in the winter. Especially when it has just snowed or people's tires aren't good, et cetera, so.
It seems like anymore the pass closes every time it snows.
Well, especially Vail, like that one's a much harder pass to keep open. That's great that you've done that.
Yeah, it is very exciting.
Then you need the people.
Exactly, and then we were able to purchase a system called Guardify, which allows us to transfer the evidence or the recording from our system directly over to law enforcement.
Nice.
And so Kramer and the sheriff's office went through training and we were able to
Sorry, guys, I'm just running a little bit late. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. 1 minute.
Sure.
Matt, hey Matt,
Hey Matt,
it started at 12:30. So just FYI, we've been in it. Don't
You're
worry, you
good,
go to
you're
the
good.
bathroom.
You did.
Just want you to know, we're
Hi, Matt.
already having
Double
a
apology.
conversation. Sounds good.
He thought he just made it.
I know,
Yeah.
that's why.
but ultimately, love to answer any questions if you have
One
any.
more thing, so, training, we've also been able to, so normally when we have a trained forensic interviewer, we have to send them to Minnesota or send them to Alabama, those are kind of the two big
Wow.
places. But what we were able to do, and Amy was able to do this, was get, forensic interviewer training to Summit County.
Yeah, that's what.
So, which is, a lot
That's
cheaper
great.
rather
That's
than,
amazing.
That's awesome.
you know, we can put one person in and train 20 people as opposed
Yeah.
to sending 20 people to Minnesota or Alabama, so that was a huge
Yeah.
thing as well, so.
Yeah,
How many people are trained in Lake County to provide forensic?
so they actually just came to this, we trained March 31st, so Katrina came
cool.
over, I think you're a previous deputy came over, Danny Lamascalo. She also came over and did the training, and I don't believe there was anyone else from Lake County. But we work so closely with the sheriff's office here, we have a phenomenal relationship
That's awesome.
and yeah, we have great rapport and we're happy to continue supporting the community here and yeah, ultimately, we are here to request support for 2026 at the same amount, if that's possible, just to sustain our fundability and continue figuring out all those different holes of the federal funding.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
thank you.
so thank you for having us.
Andy's online. Andy, do you have any questions?
Man, I actually have so many questions for you guys after listening to this. But first, I wanted to say there's days where I think that I have a tough job. And I imagine it pales in comparison to some of the stuff that you guys have to deal with. So I want to say thank you for doing what you're doing. It is
Thank you.
incredibly like an amazing job that you're doing. Like without you guys, I'm terrified to think of what life would be like for certain people without the work you guys are doing.
Thank you for
I wanted to ask a better way to contact you guys because in the best interest of time, there are so many things I would like to learn more about with this and ask you guys everything from how do we help you guys out more with your grant process and letters of support, things like that, and how do we in the events that there's children being removed from families, what do we do to encourage people to enroll in foster family programs, things like that. And we don't have enough time to go over all this stuff right now. So I'd basically just like a way to contact you guys so I can ask, more in-depth questions.
Well, absolutely, and you have phenomenal questions, and quite honestly, we, Becca Largent, who's our new operations manager and family victim advocate, came from Child Welfare Services, so she has a ton of experience and a wealth of knowledge in regards to foster care and removing children from their homes, so I'm sure she would really enjoy taking this phone call with you. So I'll definitely provide you with her contact, if you wanna write it down right now, it's super easy.
Sure.
Her email is becca@treetopcenter.org. And then if you wanna go onto our website, all of our information is there and it's just www.treetopcenter.org. I believe the information is also on the PowerPoint that we shared. And I will leave some printouts here with the folks here that has all of our information as well. Would love to coordinate a call with you and answer all your questions.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Our budgeting process starts in August.
Okay.
And our community requests are usually at the very end.
Okay.
So make sure we've satisfied all our statutory and operational needs, and then we look at the community requests.
Okay.
I think in the future, we're trying to have a more formalized request procedure, so it's more equitable to folks who can't get in front of us. But we will let you know.
Okay. Well, thank you for your.
Unacceptable absence, I apologize, but I will watch the YouTube
video, so.
We're recording this, so
Oh,
Matt can go back and
wonderful.
watch it.
And then I'll leave you guys with these handouts and there's a
Thank
bunch
you.
of information here. So if you guys wanna
Thank you.
hold on to these, you could take this one. I think Mark has one as well.
Amy and Mark, thank you so much for taking your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you
Yeah.
for your time.
Nice to meet
Mark,
you.
nice
Thank
to
you
meet
for
you
your
too.
support.
Mark's over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Amy and Mark.
Thank you so much for having
Thank
us.
Thanks, you too. Okay.
All right, moving on, agenda item number 3. An overview and update from the Southern Colorado Economic Development District. This is led by Tracy Gutierrez, the Senior Program Manager over there at SCED.
Good, yes.
Okay.
It's good.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank
Thank you everyone for your time today. My apologies, I'm unable to be there in person. Our office is based out of Pueblo. I know we have new commissioners, so I'll give you a bit of an overview about SCED. But we do have a large event happening tomorrow. We're doing a water and sewer summit here for our region. So I'm doing the final prep work for that. So my apologies for not being there in person. So Southern Colorado Economic Development District is the designated economic development district for 13 counties throughout Southern Colorado, including Lake County and into Chaffee, Fremont, Custer, Pueblo, Huerfano, Los Animas, and all of our partners out east, Otero, Prowers, Baca, Bent, Kiowa, Kit Carson, Crowley. I think I got all of them. So my name is Tracy Gutierrez. I'm the Senior Program Manager. I work in pretty much all of our counties, and I have just a few initiatives I wanted to bring to your attention, give you a brief overview of SCED, and answer any questions that you might have. But I will say, I think they've left the room, but bravo to your Child Advocacy Center there. I hopped on early, so what an amazing organization you have there in Lake County. So I have been with this organization 3 years. It's myself and our executive director. Her name is Leslie Mastriani, and we serve a variety of needs for the counties that we work in. So we are designated as the Economic Development District, as I said, for the region of Southern Colorado, and we have that designation through the EDA. So we've been in existence since 1967 to serve our regions. And the primary reason that economic development districts exist is to support the SEDS document, which is a comprehensive economic development strategy for our region. This is a document that the regions are required to produce every 5 years with the help of the counties that we serve, so including Lake County. And what the purpose of this document is to pull together what those needs are for your region, help you to identify them, look at ways that there can be cross collaboration or possibly multiple funding opportunities at this local, state, or federal level to meet some of those needs. So our last SEDS document was completed in 2021. And so we are now in the process of working towards our new SEDS document, which is required by EDA to have on file in order to qualify for any EDA funding. The current SEDS document, I will tell you, is on our website. Please don't look at it. It was completed prior to my tenure and prior to Leslie's tenure, but it's about 400 pages. So if you need a little light reading one night, maybe before bed. But I have a few high points that I'm happy to share with you. One of the items that was highly identified during our last SEDS process was broadband. as we all know, with the pandemic and all of the various needs that arose, that became a huge need, especially in the rural communities that we serve. And we were very fortunate here at SCED to receive funding through the Colorado Broadband Office's Capital Projects Fund. So that was their first round of broadband funding a while back. I think we received that initial funding about a year and a half ago. We identified 5 projects to complete broadband or begin the broadband process to better serve our rural communities. One of the projects that that was approved was in Lake County. I have a very, very brief update on that project. It is north of Leadville, and the engineers are currently waiting on the approval of permits from the Forest Service and from the Bureau of Land Management. So as we know, sometimes those types of things move a little more slowly than we all would like, but we do have a brief update on that. Back to the SEDS document, in addition to the broadband needs that were identified throughout the entire region that we serve, a few of the items that were of note for Lake County, and I know you all were not members of the county commissioners at the time, these items came from stakeholder meetings that were held with community leaders, various government entities, economic development professionals, leaders, and community members throughout Lake County. So a few of the items that were identified was a need for working capital for small businesses, business development, including a possible master plan for a Lake County industrial park, infrastructure needs, the water district, sanitation district, bridge replacement, education needs, workforce training in partnership with Colorado Mountain College, and also recreation needs, trail expansion, and transportation overall. So those were a couple of the things that were brought up. The reason that I wanted to provide an update to you all is because we are undertaking the next SEDS process, and we really want this to be an interactive process with yourself and the entire community. So we'll be planning some stakeholder meetings in Lake County, and we would like to have as much community input as possible. So I'll keep you all abreast of those. I will likely be reaching out for maybe a good facility that would be able to be used for something along those lines. What we're planning is more of a strategy session, excuse me. So we'll conduct a SWOT analysis. We'll provide information about the last SEDS, maybe some updates on things that were noted in that document, and where we're at with those types of projects. But this SEDS, what our hope is that it is a living, breathing, working document for all of our counties to utilize as a effective strategy for economic development for your region. So that's where we're at with the SEDS document, and that's the importance of that document. So we take that very seriously in making sure that it is reflective of your community, because we want it to be something that you're able to use. It will help us assist the county in applying for those federal dollars, relaying those project needs to our representatives at EDA, so that hopefully we can get some additional funding funneling through to the county, which we know it's all in flux right now, but we want to do our best because we do work for the counties that we serve. So you all pay dues to be a part of SCED, and we want to be sure that you are seeing results from the work that we do and the work that we're committed to doing. Did you have any questions about the SEDS document or that process moving forward before I move into my other 2 points?
Yes, Tracy, we are currently doing our comp plan, and it sounds like the work of the document you're talking about, what is it called? It sounds like those would dovetail really easily And especially since the work is already happening here, we definitely have some fatigue and stakeholder engagement and those kinds of conversations. So, if there's a way you could connect with our community planning and development
Okay,
department to make sure that you're using any work that we've already done to answer the
oh,
questions that you have.
that would be wonderful. And what was the correct title of the department?
Community planning and development.
Okay,
Maybe Candace, could you connect Tracy to the appropriate people? Currently our director is out on bereavement leave, but when they get back, there might be a lot of opportunity for that kind of connection.
that would be wonderful. And I would be happy to come up and meet with them. I think ideally, I'd be looking at August to come and visit and set some time. But if you all already have a lot of that information compiled, because the last thing we want is any type of fatigue. We want this to be useful for the community, but we don't want to burn out our stakeholders either. So I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you. Thank you. That's extremely helpful. We will also be producing a survey that we will send out to a lot of our stakeholders. So you all will be getting that. It's a little, it's just going to be an easy ask, just some of your thoughts, probably similar to some of the processes you've gone through, but at least it kind of gets those items in the hopper for us and brings them to the top for consideration and conversation. So if you all would watch for that and fill it out for us. Was there anything else about the SEDS before I move on to a couple of other items for you?
Not for me.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner. I appreciate that that heads up. That's helpful because we don't want to recreate the wheel for sure. One other thing that I did want to let you know, I did make mention of our Water and Sewer Summit that's happening tomorrow. This is the first time we've done an event like this. Our executive director has pretty extensive knowledge with those types of systems. She previously worked for an engineering firm, has a real passion for those types of projects that are always of huge need for the communities that we serve. We do have Mr. Joshua Miller from the Leadville Sanitation District that'll be attending. So we were really excited to see him there. So we're looking forward to that. We'll have folks there from CDPHE, from DOLA. We have some panelists discussing some projects that have already taken place. So we're hoping to make this an annual event. So we're excited that he'll be able to attend. The other item that we wanted to let you all know about that's very exciting is, and I don't have a ton of information because we're still receiving our training on this program, but there is a local impact accelerator program through the Colorado Energy Office. I'm sure you all have likely received some of this information. SCED has been designated as the regional navigator for this program. So if you all are interested in applying or have some projects that you would like to discuss and see if perhaps those might qualify, please reach out to myself or to Leslie, and we can talk through your ideas, see if they would qualify and how we can move forward and be of assistance with that application. I can forward this one sheet. I just received this late last week, but I'm happy to forward this along so you can have for your records. The first round opens through an LOI process from June 16th through August 1st, and then the full application will be open from August 1st to November 5th. But I think this is a wonderful opportunities for our communities, focusing on the funding will focus on buildings, land use, transportation, and waste. And so as the designated economic development district, it's our responsibility, and with you as paying dues members to the organization, this is what we do. So we work for you. So we want to help you put together an application, because I know all of those areas, there's surely projects that you could utilize some funding for. So keep that in mind, because we're happy to assist with that process and assist with the application and also the grant administration as well. So that was very exciting. Like I said, I don't have a ton of information because we just received word that we would be serving as the regional navigator. But as we have more info, we'll forward that along, hopefully later in the month. I do also produce, I believe you received it, our monthly e-newsletter. So that's part of my responsibilities. So I'll be sure to provide updates in that as well, so that you have that information. The other item that I wanted to get some input on, we at SCED, we were part of the Community Navigator program for small business support. So coming out of COVID, this was some funding that we got through the SBA, and it was to support small businesses and their growth and development. That grant has since sunsetted, but we provided through that grant some marketing consultation support through the small business development centers in our region, bookkeeping, accounting, all of those services that that small business owners need. What we're trying to do is continue that support to our local small businesses and complement what the Small Business Development Center, what those do throughout our region. So we've been putting together some business resource fairs where we would invite in local resources in addition to state resources. So like the Rural Jumpstart program from the state, various programs of that nature, Good Business Colorado. But then also have some folks from the community, maybe someone who is an accountant, someone who does marketing or has expertise in graphic design, those types of things, website development. So we've been putting together these business resource fairs. We'd like to host one in Lake County. So my questions are, originally we were looking at July, but I know the summer is slowly going or quickly going by. Also, I want to be sure to be mindful of the small businesses in your area. I know you're right in the crux of tourist season. So I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about what might be the best approach with an event like this, maybe some possible partners and timing. Because I want, like I said, I want to be respectful of the businesses and be sure that we're providing things that they might need. What are your thoughts on that?
Summer's the wrong time, like you said. November is our next mud season, so like early to mid-November. And working with the Chamber of Commerce is a great connection. To
Is
get the
there
word out.
something in particular at the chamber, Commissioner, or
Yes, Nancy Bailey.
Bailey? Oh, okay, I know Nancy. She sat on our board when I first started here and then stepped away.
Yeah.
So she's involved with the chamber now?
She has restarted the chamber after it not really existing for about 6 years.
Okay.
So she's got a brand new board and new energy. So Nancy is currently the president of the chamber.
Okay. And thank you for that. And timing wise then, to stay away from tourist season and mud season and travel, and would you say September, October, or
November.
November would be, okay.
Yeah. That's our mud season. That's what you'd want to hit.
Okay. Good to know. That is very, very helpful. Do you see that type of resource fair as something that business owners might be interested in? What we usually do is get the types of resources that'll be there. We can publicize that ahead of time, through email, social media, various means in the community. That way we'll hopefully draw folks in. Is there anything that has been brought to your all's attention as far as particular needs or particular type of services that might be of assistance?
I think that's a Nancy Bailey question.
Okay, gotcha. I'll give Nancy a call.
But as, I don't think this has been solved yet, but from my experience, CPAs and bookkeepers, not CPAs, but just bookkeepers in general are always needed up here. I don't, and Candace, you served as a mentor in this way.
Yeah.
Didn't you?
I did.
What were some of the needs you saw from Lake?
I think some of the biggest things are just to understand their financial their piece, like the management piece, projections, and then also, I think when things weren't going well, really understanding the components of their business plan, or maybe they didn't have a business plan when they started, that if they could have thought through those, they would have had a little bit more.
So
help.
finances sounds like is
That's a biggie.
the major topic.
Yeah, and Tracy, this is Chris Floyd. I serve as Lake County's attorney, but before that, I had a law firm that specialized in working with small businesses here. We are a legal desert up here. We
Legal.
definitely need more legal services for small businesses.
Okay. Great,
Yeah.
good to know.
You're a small
If we're-
business owner.
If
Go
we're
ahead, Ellen.
discussing, oh, sorry, Matt, go ahead.
No, you go. I don't have anything.
Oh, weren't we recently discussing about how badly we needed to try to court larger lodging hotel institutions, or trying to figure out how to get some of those interested in possibly establishing a larger hotel or motel or something like that in Leadville?
Mhm.
Adam Ducharme has been working on that. He's with the Economic Development Corporation.
No, he's not. He's with
There's
us.
tourism.
He's our
He's our tourism.
Thank you.
tourism and economic development department here, Tracy.
Okay,
Adam
Um,
Ducharme.
okay. Development. So maybe when I come up, when I come to Leadville in August, you said his name's Adam?
Yeah, and Ducharme, Ducharme.
Okay,
We have somebody else that can, since he's staff, Candace can connect you with.
okay, great. Yeah, there's, because there are still, I know, some state funding opportunities, specific to tourism. Again, it's just keeping those doors open. If there are opportunities that we hear about, that's why it's important for us to have these conversations with you all, so that we can keep it top of mind, that the needs that you have, and if there's opportunities for funding or various connections that we can assist in making, that's what we want to be able to do. So, okay, that's very helpful. Are there other items, or anything that I touched upon that there were other questions? I know I'm at my time on the agenda, but I'm happy to answer any further questions, and I will definitely be following up with these individuals. And what I'd like to do is maybe come back and provide an update next quarter, just to keep you informed of our progress and what we're doing to better serve our counties.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy.
I have one question.
Sure.
Can you elaborate more on what is the SCED's relationship to SBDCs?
So we, our goal, especially with SBDC, is to complement and not compete. So for example, with the SBDC that serves Pueblo, Custer, and Huerfano counties, I work very closely with Brian, who's their director, and they offer quite a bit of training. They offer some consulting with their coaches. So if there's a small business that we know of that has gone through the Community Navigator program, but we know that their business plan is in need of tweaking, or that SBDC is having a marketing seminar that might benefit them, I refer them to SBDC. So we kind of act as that partner. We work with them in a lot of of different ways. So they will also be invited to the resource fairs that we're doing because of the importance that they play. And, folks who may be interested in starting their business need that business plan. That's not my area of expertise. That's SBDC's. So if we can work together just to maximize those resources, so that's really our relationship. We try to complement each other. So we've worked with, there's 3 SBDCs that serve the area that we work in, and we work with all of them. So
Awesome, thank you.
we work with all of them. So we're trying to continue that. We've had some staff changes here. So anything
Tracy,
else?
I'm just curious, Tracy, where you're located, if you don't mind me
Um,
asking?
We're up. Our office is located in Pueblo.
Pueblo.
So I was born and raised here. I spent 15 years working at Colorado State University, Pueblo. So it was a natural transition for me to move into economic development because I have a community relations background. So we work throughout the entire region. We do a lot of traveling. Leslie is actually traveling to the communities out east today. So not in the office a ton, but our home base is in Pueblo.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. But I love to come to Leadville. I came for a visit about, trying to think, I think it was about 6 months ago. And anytime I can come for a visit, and because my husband likes to come, so it gives us time in the car together.
Anytime.
And it's so beautiful there. I love it there. So, any other questions?
No, thank you.
No, not for me, thanks.
Well, I really appreciate your time and we appreciate your support. Please reach out anytime. There's a lot of great information on our website and our social media channels. And I will be in touch, and I will also be following up on all of these items. This has been really helpful. So I appreciate your time today, commissioners. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Tracy.
Have a good one.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Agenda item number 4. We have overview and updates from the Lake County Conservation District. This is led by Harmony Jump, Natural Resources Conservation Manager for Central Colorado Conservancy. Hi, Harmony.
Hi Andy, how's it going? I'm actually gonna hand it over to Wendy McDermott for the first part. She's the Executive Director for the Central Colorado Conservancy. And she can speak a little bit more about the partnership between Lake County and the Central Colorado Conservancy. And then I'll be speaking, so.
Are we good sitting here?
Sure.
Yeah, as long as Andy can hear you.
The owl is.
Yeah, the owl.
He looks
The eyes
good.
are staring at me. Commissioner, staff, thanks for having us here today. It's really great to meet you all. So as Harmony said, I'm Wendy McDermott. I'm the Executive Director at Central Colorado Conservancy. And we share a position with Lake County Conservation District. So Harmony's position, she's a W-2 employee of our organization, but so works for us a bit, and then also serves as the district manager of the Lake County Conservation District. A little bit about the Conservancy, as we say CCC or the Conservancy. We were founded in 2001, originally as the land trust of Upper Arkansas. And about 8 years ago, expanded our programming in geography, kind of beyond Lake and Chaffee counties, and it grew our programming. So we work on conservation easements with private landowners who want to protect their properties. We also have an agricultural program with a lot of different projects to help keep working lands working, and we have watershed restoration program and projects. A couple of our our 2 signature projects in Lake County is the Arkansas River Community Preserve, which at some point would be great to come to a work session and brief you all about that. And then this really cool partnership with the Conservation District. I'd say the idea to partner with conservation districts started about 5 years ago with my predecessor and staff at the time at the Conservancy. And we worked on creating basically a partnership with the Natural Resources Conservation Service, the NRCS, their department within the USDA, and worked with the Upper Arkansas Conservation District back then, and came up with a proposal to the NRCS for what's called a cooperative agreement. So it was a contract for funding. The length of the contract was 4 years, 5 years, 5 years. But an initial like year 1, 2 of funding with the opportunity to renew it depending on congressional budgeting, right? So we started, that contract was signed in August of 2021. First hired a shared position with the Upper Arkansas Conservation District, the UACD, and kind of got that one kicked off. The main goal is really to build capacity for conservation districts to provide the services they do to landowners. And then the next sort of step was to replicate that with the Lake County Conservation District. And in 2022, with the NRCS funding and match support funding from Lake County government, we started the shared position with the LCCD. At the time, Sarah Marshall was hired, and about a year in, Sarah went to work for C4, and we hired Harmony. And Harmony's done a really, really amazing job propping up the Lake County Conservation District and getting a lot of projects going and positioning the district as a leader in Lake County on resource issues and with private landowners. And about, what did my notes say? I put the year in it, yeah, about winter 2023, 2024, we'd spent out the money from the NRCS, initial $96,000. We're told, yep, we can refund it. Congress the government was operating off of what's called a continuing resolution at the time, so they couldn't really put new money into contracts. And that went on till about March of 2024, and we've been told like, yep, we can fund it. But then NRCS's budget nationwide was cut by 2 or 3%. And some NRCS staff changes and kind of wanting to, they had to really like figure out how do we keep all these cooperative agreements funding, and ours was defunded. And so since then, Harmony and the district have done a lot of work writing grants. I don't think I've seen someone write so many grants in a short amount of time, and I've been doing this work for 20 years. Kudos to Harmony and her board of supervisors. Fortunately, Lake County government was wanted to keep that partnership going and provided $25,000 for our FY24 and another $25,000 for our FY25. We're July to June, so we're coming at the end of our fiscal year. And so it's been a really great partnership among all these entities. And I guess, does that work? Is that good? I'll hand it over to you two and talking more about what the district does.
Yeah, so I've been in this position for about a year and a half. And I'm just gonna leave this with you. This is the annual report that the Colorado State Conservation Board requires us to write, all conservation districts. This is back as well. That's something else, but you can have that as well. And if you wanna give this to Andy, you can put that in his thing. I'm just gonna go off some notes here. First of all, I wanted to let you know that this is Mary Smith. She's the president of the Lake County Conservation District Board. It's an elected board. And just to follow up with what Wendy said, the Upper Arkansas Conservation District is the conservation district for Chaffee County. So it's a misnomer since we're really
Great, that's a good
But the Conservancy, the land trust, helped provide capacity funding or partnership funding for both the conservation district and Lake and Chaffee. The Lake County Conservation District, LCCD, it was established in 1950 by landowners in Lake County. The boundaries of the conservation district include all of the county except the city of Leadville as it was in 1977. The mission statement you can read for yourself, but the biggest overall purpose is to help private landowners with their natural resources concerns on their property. Eighth grade civics class, conservation districts used to be called soil conservation districts. It came out of the Dust Bowl, and it was basically a way for the federal government to say, we really need to encourage farmers and producers to use best management practices so the topsoil doesn't fly away and the groundwater isn't polluted, yada, yada, yada. Over time, a lot of conservation districts have dropped the soil because it includes so much more than just soil. Here in Lake, the biggest thing that we deal with actually is forestry, forest health and wildfire mitigation. And for a long time, it operated kind of underground, I would say. You know, the meetings weren't public, they were in someone's private home. But as a special district, we are just like a school district and a hospital district. We have to follow all the laws and the rules the state requires from the Department of Local Affairs and the Colorado State Conservation Board, which include things like public open meetings, monthly meetings, an elected board, annual budgets, tax audits, all that kind of stuff. And so with the position from the Conservancy, we're trying to breathe some life into it, reach more landowners, give ourselves a name, do some good work. It's important to note that we do not levy taxes though. In Lake County, when they established it, they did not put it on the books that there's gonna be any property taxes that goes to the conservation district. In other places that does happen. In Eagle County, property owners are taxed for the conservation districts. In more agricultural areas like Nebraska and Kansas and Oklahoma, that definitely happens. But here, no taxes come to the conservation district. The only public funding we receive for meeting all the statutory compliance documents and procedures is $8,500 a year from the Colorado Department of Agriculture, Colorado State Conservation Board. And also just note, I'm so happy I'm not speaking after the Treetop Child Advocacy because that was hard to follow. Okay. So just to sum it up, what we do is conservation, collaboration, and education. And I put some data in here for 2024. The LCCD has connected private landowners with federal and state funding in 2024 for water efficiency and irrigation, forest health and wildfire mitigation, soil health, rangeland management, river restoration, and noxious weed management. It's in your packet. I had a pretty slide with pictures, but I opted for the boring thing. It's also in the annual report. And it's quite a few, it's a lot of dollars. And so I'm connecting landowners with those like the Natural Resources Conservation Service or the Colorado State Forest Service, people who can come and do this work for free on someone's land or in a reimbursement kind of situation. So I do write a lot of grants. I'm for something I don't even want to tell you about, but as you all know, the fiscal landscape out there is pretty hard these days, and so the money that is left over, there's a lot of competition for that. Even the state funding, which is a lot of federal pass-through funding, has been temporarily paused and then never unpaused, or contracts have just been terminated because of, I had a really excellent one through the EPA Environmental Justice Division to provide free backyard soil testing for metal and for historic mining metal contaminants. I was really excited about that, and that one got terminated. Last year we did a fun urban agriculture project. That was a grant funded project that paid for my time and also all this stuff. It includes some, outreach to the community, free gardening plots, some supported garden plots at the C4 farm, 2 high school internships. So we had some Lake County juniors went over and worked at the farm for the summer. I provided some free backyard soil testing, which once I offered that, there was a lot of demand, which is what led me to apply for the EPA grant. We provided some soil bank and workshops. I think I mentioned that already. That grant, I was going to apply for it again. It was just temporarily paused, never unpaused, because I think it was federal money. Last year we did a pilot program with cost share. It went really well, so we're doing it again this year. And it's really a way for us to reach the more urban folks not just large producers. I think we have a whopping 3 full-time agricultural producers in Lake County, and everybody else is, a hobby farmer or so. There are lots of people who really love their land and wanna do the right thing, and so the Lake County Conservation District can help them with those things, identifying the issues, connecting them with resources, and funding opportunities. We also have some equipment for rent, which is random, an overseer in Harrow, if anybody would like to borrow that for anything. I work in collaboration style on wildfire mitigation and forest health locally. I facilitate and coordinate the Lake County Forest Health Council, and that's a collection of all forest and emergency management personnel in Lake County. And it was actually last year when the Interlochen fire happened, Pat Mercer, our district ranger, came to the next Forest Health Council meeting and just said that, this was really instrumental in making a quick response, having these partnerships, sitting in a room together every other month, talking about stuff. It really influences how quickly you can contact someone and get something done on the ground, so that was kind of cool. And basically the Forest Health Council is trying to accomplish the goals of the 2022 Community Wildfire Protection Plan. And so we're looking at the areas created on the map and try to target those areas for wildfire mitigation. And then my job often is to contact the private landowner directly and just ask them, hey, this is something, your land falls in this area, is this something you're interested in? If so, I can help you out, help you find some connections to accomplish some of your goals. We also work on food access and urban agriculture. There's a local food access coalition that we participate in. Recreation management, we've worked some with the Lake County Pros Department and Tourism Department on their regional partnership initiative. I think it's kind of gone underground lately, but I'm not sure there. But it's a regional it's for responsible recreation. And then also regional and local noxious weed management and watershed health. Last year I worked with Dave McCann at the Leadville Lake County Fire and Rescue to host 2 wildfire mitigation town halls, one at Freight and one at the Southern Station with a panel, and I thought it was really well attended. It happened to be planned right after the Interlochen fire started, so that was really good timing for the turnout. This year, the Office of Emergency Management took that on and held that fair, which is amazing. We also do some youth engagement and education. I've worked with the intermediate school and the high school, bringing in guest speakers and on soil health, wildfire mitigation, all sorts of natural resources concerns. We did a fun free tree giveaway, which was fun. We've worked with the Cottonwood Institute to clean out a ditch. We host scholarships for a local summer camp. I'm sorry, I missed one bit on my notes here. It's important to note that the Lake County Conservation District serves as a reviewing agency for subdivision and mining reclamation applications in Lake County. So Anne and her team at CPD often send us referrals for us to provide comments on. And we also provided a comment through the Division of Reclamation and Mining Safety last year. So I think in 2024 we did 11 comment letters. And that's really helpful, I think, to achieve the goals from the very beginning, like you're gonna put in something right here, you should think about these other things that it's going to impact.
We see you on the land use review packet. Yeah, good reminder.
And then last year we had an intern from CNC help out, that was fun. He did a lot of forest health work, which is really great. Funding and support, I have direct assistance from the Colorado State Conservation Board. It's about $8,500 a year. I wrote down some information from CCC that what Lake County has contributed to in the previous fiscal years.
The Conservancy provides organizational support. I approached Ben about having a cubicle at the college, and so I have one of those cubicles in the partners room, which is really great during the summer when my boys are home. And then they also provide tech support for our Forest Health Council meetings. They set up WebEx for us that are usually held over at CFC. We receive in-kind support from Lake County. I often use the treasurer's printer to print something out, board packets for our monthly meetings. And also I have a cell phone that was provided to me from the county, and we use this room for our meetings. And then we get some donations. Oh, I'm sorry, we also have one of the pages on your websites. And that's really all I have, and I'm here to answer questions or see if Mary would like to say anything.
Where does the rest of the money come from? That's not much.
I write grants.
You write grants, okay.
I write grants also for private property owners sometimes, so
Yeah.
I seek out the natural hazard mitigation enterprise.
Mhm.
I wrote a grant for that, and I'll include some staff time for myself in there.
Nice.
So it's grants.
Wow.
But this is a full-time position, this isn't volunteer.
No, it's
Okay,
a full-time position.
okay.
You work for your money. You work for your money.
I
You go-
work for my
you go
money
find
too.
that money.
I find that money, yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was so, I had no idea what the setup was.
Could you elaborate on this
Oh, right, on that map.
Sentinel landscape
Right.
map? I was trying to explain it and then I
Yes.
looked it up and
I
it's,
would be happy to. I gave that to you just so you would ask me that question.
yeah.
About 2 months ago, I got an email from the Colorado Association of Conservation Districts letting me know about this Sentinel landscape, this proposed Pike Peak Sentinel landscape designation. And it was created down in Colorado Springs from the in partnership between a land trust and the US Forest Service. And they are proposing this landscape designation to the Department of Defense, and it includes Lake County. And the idea, I'm not a Sentinel landscape designation expert in any way. I really just wanted to bring this to your attention, because I think there can be some department of, if it passes and I guess it is approved, it can provide some Department of Defense funding for Lake County. I've been in contact with the woman from the Palmer Land Trust, and she is coming to our next Forest Health Council meeting in August.
Mhm.
I believe I sent you all an invitation for that, and you can also join remotely. And it's a time to learn about what this could mean for Lake County. It's mostly, the reason why we are on the map is because we hold all of Colorado Springs water, or a lot of their water. And so it's about military defense and preparation, and since Lake County is the holder of a very important resource, we have been included on that designated map.
I totally thought we were part of their training ground, because what the heck are all those jets if they're not?
Did you hear those jets today?
Yeah.
No.
Oh my god, they
But-
were over my house today, like, it was crazy. They were
But I
really
hear them all
loud.
the time, right? Yeah. So where are those jets coming from if they're not coming from Fort Carson?
And really, it's also about making sure that we
Right,
have,
we're just not in their training.
yeah, we're
It
not,
has- it's not-
It's not even in the
It
training.
specifically says that we are not part of their training ground. That's why I was like,
yeah.
but that's the kind of question we could
Yeah.
ask in August.
And so we will both have, the two women that put this packet together for the proposal will be there. Jen Pedersen from the US Forest Service and Amy Palmer. So I'm just dedicating the whole meeting to this. And
Thank you.
I've invited other folks from Chaffey County as well, and outside of the usual Forest Health Council
Thank you.
folks, because I thought it might be interesting.
And Park's on there.
Well, I was surprised to see with Leadville, they don't recognize our airport either, even though we do a lot of training, the military does a lot of helicopter training and
Right.
stuff up there.
Yeah, high altitude stuff, right.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Thank you.
there's C-130s flying in and out of the airport all the time, isn't there?
Yeah. I don't know what a
Not
C-130
out
is,
of
but
our
I'll say yes.
airport.
But they
Um,
have, it's terrible when they do that.
I think there is.
It's like
Yeah.
a train trying to.
They fly out of our airport. I know they fly in our airspace. I didn't realize they could land. It's so freaking huge.
Yeah,
I think the C-130s are not jet powered. I think they have props, don't they?
Yeah. Yes.
Are
Yeah,
those the
they do.
massive planes?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're the
Train
refueling,
flying over when we
Yeah.
go, yeah.
they can refuel and they can carry tanks.
Right.
Oh, I didn't realize since it's a prop plane, it can land on a short runway. Huh. Okay, thank you, wow, yes, please.
Yes.
Can I
Yes.
ask
Yes,
one
Mary.
thing? Okay, we're having issues with our water, the irrigation to the ranches. And, they are trying to change the dates on our irrigation ditches, the state is. And I was wondering if we could maybe get any help from you guys to figure out what's going on and how they can legally do that, and I mean, there's what's his name, Dan Hendricks,
Yeah.
and he's with the water commissioners. I'm gonna call him and have him explain it to me in English instead of this over my head thing, because I didn't understand. He was at our meeting, but I didn't understand what they were saying.
Is he with the state?
He is, so water law in Colorado is really complicated,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
As you know, there's two important dates, date of appropriation, date of adjudication.
Yep.
And it's currently, as we understand it, at the state attorney general's office. The problem that we have heard about, and again, it's above my pay grade, way, I have no idea. But it's possible that if they change those two dates, which they go off of, most of Lake County will lose access to its water. Because
Seniority.
it's seniority,
Yeah.
so like right now, the ditches have been called, which means that they're going to be turned off.
yeah,
Because the city of Pueblo
Has
has
an older water.
has an older date
Yeah.
than a lot of Lake County, including Lake County Water Enterprise. So it could be a big deal,
Mhm.
and we just, I know a lot of agricultural producers are really concerned about it, as we
They said
should
in
be,
5 years, it probably won't have any water at all.
like running
Yeah.
high,
yeah,
and we'll lose the water from the landscape.
And we've had water rights for over 200 years. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
understand how they can just all of a sudden say, sorry.
Matt dinged the bell on this last week after your meeting.
I was at the
Oh,
meeting
yes.
Yep.
and I
So,
concur that it was over my head,
Yeah,
and so I
It was.
asked Bryce I asked
Mhm.
Candace
I gave him a deadline of the 5th, and I gave you guys kind of a little bit of explanation of what my understanding is
Mhm.
that how they're measuring is being changed. And that my understanding of the statutes and information I read, was that they can change the due dates and how the measuring is done. And I don't know other than writing a letter, reaching out to the state that we,
Who would you write to? And I will write letters every week.
so what would be state water commission, right?
yeah, it is.
So we have a water commissioner, we used to have a water commissioner, and he recently left that position with Scott, who is part owner of the Lake Fork Ranch. And we have a new one now for our area, Talon, I forget his last name, he came to our meeting as
Yeah.
well, he was with Dan at the time. And from what I understand, it can also be so much about the local water commissioner, but this sits at the state's attorney general's office right now.
Yeah.
And even when that's been decided, it's possible it's gonna be hung up in courts for a long time.
Yeah.
I think it would be really nice if there could be a coordinated effort, to, make a case for the landowners.
Well, there's a lot of people here in Leadville that, well, not a lot, cause there's not many of us. That's their livelihood.
Yeah.
Water is their livelihood,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
like, to just get rid of it is just insane.
And Pueblo is thirsty.
Yep.
Will it just keep growing?
Well, we'll hear from Bryce next month.
I'm not a water specialist, I just did some layperson.
No, yeah.
It was very good, Candace.
Maybe based on what we find out from him, we can figure out next steps of who we contact. Cause if it's gonna be in it'd probably be in litigation for like a decade. It's
I
not
would
quick,
think.
it's not quick.
No.
Yeah.
So,
Could we write a letter of concern or something on behalf of you guys and send it to
We would appreciate
Yeah.
any help you guys could give us.
Attorney General Weiser? running for governor?
Phil,
Phil,
Phil Weiser.
yeah.
I wonder what other counties might band together, or council of governments, or, you know, all weigh in collectively somehow.
We're probably an easy target, we got way more water rights than we have people. So probably looking everywhere to fill up the canteens. I said that for you, Andy.
From what I understand, the Arkansas River Basin is over appropriated
It
already.
is, yeah.
So
Something's
just
gotta
be
give.
really.
We gotta do everything we can to keep our water. Is
I
it
can bring
just-
this up to UCOG and see what they have to say about it as far as like banding together to push back on it.
Okay, I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up, it's very concerning when I heard it, and
Yeah,
I'm like, this sounds really concerning, but I don't know why.
it's very concerning.
Yeah.
Mary, who are you talking with? Who,
His
the
name
commissioner,
is-
the water commissioner?
Yeah, one of the water commissioners, his name is Dan Hendricks. It's, I think I have his right number, but I'm not sure because I lost his card.
If there's any way one of us could be on the phone call with you, just so we can hear what they're saying and,
Maybe you could, I need to have him dumb it down.
yeah. Yeah,
That's all there
respect.
is to it.
Well, Mary, I'll offer when you have a phone call set up with him,
Okay,
if you would be willing to reach out to me,
okay,
and then I can take notes and disseminate it back to the crew,
okay.
back to the
Alright,
rest
yeah,
of the
well,
BOCC.
yeah, okay, that's cool.
Can I give you my phone number? Do I know my phone number?
The other thing that's gonna be coming up soon is the next abandonment list comes out in 5 years, comes out every 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And my understanding is the one, 5 years ago, there's just, were a bunch of water rights on it that the state's trying to say, these,
Yeah.
you've
Doesn't the
abandoned these for whatever reason. So they're kind of, this will probably play in, like, you watching what's happening coming.
Doesn't Lake
in the next
County
5
have
years.
water rights too somewhere down?
We do, yeah.
Yeah, and if you
That's why
guys-
we have an enterprise. So
Okay.
Bryce is the person who runs our enterprise, who manages our water rights, the
Okay.
county government's water rights.
Okay,
And he's the one who's gonna present to us in July,
okay.
specifically about what he's learning about this thing going on.
He's
Oh.
coming to one of these work sessions.
Yeah. So we'll let Harmony know when that's happening,
Okay,
and,
I do get every week, the weekly planner, and I try to read what's on the agenda, but sometimes it doesn't. So
yeah,
I
no
would
problem.
appreciate a heads up, that would be great.
I try to read it too.
Okay, Mary,
okay,
my phone number is 719-839-1772.
alright,
Just you can text me, you can
okay,
text me or call me and just let me know when you might be able to chat with him.
okay, I need to check with Harmony to make sure I got his right number before I call some random guy and sure.
Thanks, Mary.
We're at time, I could see Sean's already here, but he went to the restroom.
That's good.
Ultimately, we're just here to ask for, continued support for partnership funding in
Yeah.
the future. And I heard you tell Amy that you do this in August, and so
Mhm.
we will make whatever requests we need to make then as well.
Thank you. It's, the budget conversation starts in August.
Okay,
And then it's, like I said to Amy, we make sure that we are fulfilling all of our statutory requirements and then our operational requirements, and then we look at how much is left over to support. Typically, that's how it has been. This is our first time as a board doing it, so we don't know. And we've also talked about having a more equitable request to the county so that we can actually judge things not on where to give funding, not just based on who knows how to get in front of us.
absolutely.
Yeah, so
appreciate that.
we'll keep in touch about that process too. Yeah,
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Thank
This
you
is
for your
really
time.
interesting.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
You're welcome,
Yeah, thank
I'm
you.
gonna stay for Sean's presentation.
Cool.
You've seen it before.
Oh, I have. I might learn something new. Is it about wolves?
Yeah, we'll talk about.
Is it about Headwaters Ranch too?
Yeah, that's on there.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thank you.
Wendy, thank you so much for coming.
Yep, talk to you later.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, 2:13, let's resume this work session in Lake County Board of County Commissioners. We are moving on to agenda item number 5, which is an overview and presentation on Colorado Parks and Wildlife, CPW, operations. This is led by Sean Shepard, CPW Area 13 Wildlife Manager. Welcome and thank you, Sean.
Thank you, thanks for inviting me up here.
If you give me a minute and a half, I think I could get us there.
She's the youngest.
She's most IT savvy.
I really like being able to control my environment, so I've been paying attention. Join. She wants to be here. Lake County 2025?
Yes.
I'm gonna try to share. No. Stop share. I would like to share. How do I enable share? Dang.
You can stop the other one. Speed share.
Thank you.
Turn yours.
Okay. Oh my god, that was about to be awful. Did anybody time me?
I think you were spot on that minute and a half.
45 seconds.
Shucks. Okay, you may now,
Do you want me to sit there and click?
you may, but you just have to click on my computer.
Okay. A little bit easier for me.
Please.
I know, I'm moving forward. My name is Sean Shepard, I'm the Area Wildlife Manager for Area 13. And like we discussed a minute and a half ago exactly, we're here to go over an overview, just kind of our structure, how we're built, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and how we interact with Lake County. And I am joined today with Jackson Brony. So Jackson, you can say something so that Owl will pick you up.
I'm Jackson, I'm the game warden here in Leadville.
We got close.
So close.
Couldn't see you. I don't know where it's at.
That's okay.
That's right now.
No.
Anyway, Jackson is the local district wildlife manager, the game warden, conservation officer, all the different names that we all go by as we're doing our jobs. But Jackson's in charge of, he's our point person here in Leadville. And his role is to do basically everything on the wildlife side of Colorado Parks and Wildlife. So it's everything from fishing enforcement, hunting license checks, hunter education, going into schools and doing education, putting together land use comments, interacting with landowners, agricultural issues, game damage issues, everything that we do, he's the first contact for Lake County, basically. So that is his role here, and I'm the area wildlife manager. This is a picture when I was the district wildlife manager and I still got to handle wildlife. That's down in Salida. We get a lot of deer that get all kinds of things in their antlers, and that deer, you can't see it behind me, but there's a dart gun there. It's the most expensive gun I operate for the state of Colorado, but we sedate them and we'll cut that stuff out, and we'll cut them out of fences and do things like that. So we don't always euthanize things when they get we never euthanize them if they just get some rope or something in their antlers. Here's the addition I've done this presentation a couple times and I've always forgot to say this, but my grandmother was born in Leadville, and
Nice.
her and her family emigrated here from Nova Scotia, and they came in the early 20th century for the silver boom. She then graduated high school down in Salida, but my family, on her side, the majority of her family was involved in mining. And they, at one point, my great uncle ran the Madonna mine, which is the one up on Monarch Pass, so that's my connection to Leadville and Lake County, and I did not grow up in Chaffey or Lake County. I grew up down east of Boulder, but my father and all my family was, on his side was from Chaffey County in this area, so.
Cool.
Broomfield?
Lafayette. Yeah. So I'm not here to talk about parks, but I think it's important to mention that we are Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and we do have a park side, and it's Arkansas Headwaters Recreation Area. And the recreation area stretches from a little south of the municipality of Leadville, all the way down to, it adjoins Lake Pueblo. So you will see some folks up in here that aren't completely, we are all Colorado Parks and Wildlife, but the park side is more focused on recreation, specifically recreation along the river corridor. And they have a lot of river access sites that are here in Lake County. And they work a lot more closely with LaCosi also, I will mention. They've had a long-term relationship with Lake County Open Space Initiative. But we're here to talk about wildlife. And I wanted to kind of bring up some of our bigger administrative delineations, and then we'll move down to as we get more into what our districts are and things like that. But we're Area 13, we're right there in the middle. And we're not one of the bigger areas, but we have a lot of people come here to recreate, and we have a lot of, we're a busy area, that's for sure. But we're certainly not the Denver type of areas, but there is a wildlife area in every corner of the state. And there's a district wildlife manager that is assigned to every portion of the state. So even downtown Denver is gonna have a local district wildlife manager. They might do something very different than what Jackson does, but they're still there to represent Colorado Parks and Wildlife. So Area 13, Lake, Chaffey, Fremont, and portions of Parks, Watchtower, and Custer counties. Basically what I tell folks is if you're driving down 24, 285 and 50, when you're looking left and to the right, that's basically Area 13. There's some stuff hidden that's way up high, but it's from the Continental Divide and east, and so a variety of different communities and a variety of different ecosystems and such. We have 6 district wildlife managers. We have 3 wildlife technicians and 1.5 full-time equivalent. So we have a 1.5 time position as a customer service rep. We have our office down in Salida. And then we have 1 assistant area wildlife manager and an area wildlife manager. So we have 12.5 people that administer everything that's going on with wildlife in the geographic area. And I always bring this up because it's about when I started working for the Colorado State Parks. I started with Colorado State Parks, and the population in 2000 was 4.3 million people. And then in 2024 and 2025, I think the estimate is now we're probably at 6 million people, somewhere around in there, in terms of our population. And then of course we have about 90 million people that come through Colorado as visitors. And I just bring this up because we've added, since 2000, since I came on, not in this position of course, or as a district wildlife manager, but we've had 1 new district wildlife manager in position, and that was down in Canyon City. And then we've had 1 wildlife technician position added, and that was just last year. So we're not really keeping up with the growth that happens in Colorado on our field side of Colorado Parks and Wildlife. I did mention our wildlife technician position, and we do have 1 staff member that serves up here in Lake County, and his name is Taylor Wilmington. And he graduated from Buena Vista High. He's got a family ranch down there. But he comes up here, and really what our property technicians, what their role is to manage our properties. So in Lake County, we have a variety of different properties, so they'll come up, they'll maintain the parking lot, or they'll plan habitat projects, and a variety of different functions like that. They're more property specific than Jackson is. Jackson can help out with them. He of course would pick up if there's something going on, if there's a violation of the state wildlife area, of course he's gonna deal with it. But our technicians kind of deal with the on the ground property management. A little bit bigger, closer map, and you can see the purple areas are our state trust lands, and then we have some blue areas in there that are, the purple are our state wildlife areas, And the blue are a little bit more of our state trust lands, so we do manage a variety of different stuff in Area 13. And then when people recreate on our state wildlife areas, they're not parks. They're not, and I don't mean they're not a state park, they're not a city park. They're a state wildlife area, and we manage them for the benefit of people and for wildlife related recreation and also for wildlife habitat. So some of the rules that we have on them is that dogs must be on a leash. And in some areas, only if they're hunting or training in hunting are they even allowed whatsoever. So there's certain places where we just try to manage them more towards habitat and wildlife related recreation. So we don't always allow hunting in all of our state wildlife areas. And then our fishing easements require the public to be actively fishing. So that means that if there's a fishing easement in Lake County that we manage, that a person would have to actually be fishing on it. They can't just go and walk. Or they have to have wildlife related recreation, but some of them are very specific. It depends on what the landowner originally wanted to have happen.
Can you give an example of that, please?
We're gonna Headwaters Ranch fishing easement.
Thank you.
So this is our newest one in Lake County. And this
Yeah.
property was obtained quite some time ago. It's taken us quite a little bit of time to get it opened up. A variety of different issues, but anyway, eventually last summer we got it opened up. And so the Headwaters Ranch fishing easement is still owned by the landowner that granted this easement still owns this property. And they're allowed to do a variety of different things that the easement allow them to do. Most of them are related to agricultural practices, so they're still allowed to do traditional agricultural practices. What the easement allows for is the public to be on portions of that property to do certain things, and this is strictly a fishing easement. So for a person to be on there, they would have to be actively fishing, and they need a fishing license. So not a spot where we expect people to see you walking their dogs or just taking a break from the highway. This isn't the place for it. And then of course we have a variety of different other, I have to go.
Why just fishing?
That is what the landowner wanted.
Okay, so like landowners can kind of customize their easements?
Yeah.
So if a landowner only wanted dog walking or creek slashing or bug looking, you'd be like, yeah, okay, this is a bug looking easement area, no fishing. Like you would work with the landowner to do that?
We could, but I would probably see that there's better holders of that conservation easement than Colorado Parks and Wildlife. Cause again, I go back to our mission is hunting and fishing.
Yeah, okay.
And managing of habitats, so it's kinda,
Managing of hunting and fishing
and
wildlife,
preserving
or habitat.
wildlife habitat, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
So you could say that, yeah, maybe there's a nexus there and it would be depending.
yeah.
But your question can take us really down a far rabbit hole as I talk about how we fund properties and acquisitions.
Sure.
So how we do it basically is they're funded by something called our habitat stamps. And so when a person purchases a license, there's an additional habitat stamp associated with it. So that funding source is always being put into a pot. And then that pot, private landowners can apply for, depending on what they wanna do with their private property. They might wanna just sell it to us, so we might just buy it in fee title, but they might just wanna grant an easement on it. And that's when we get into either a fishing easement or in your hypothetical, I can't even remember what it was, bug watching?
Bug watching.
Well, we're now managing bugs too,
Not,
just so you
okay.
know.
Yeah, just curious how like,
So it might fit
how much
into
they
our-
had to say and what.
They have
land
quite a
can
bit
be
of
used.
say in what they wanna do. It's their land and it's the easement. But they have say into it until they grant the easement to us. And then
Right.
once we have the easement, they have to adhere to what's in the easement.
Why would somebody do an easement with CPW versus like a conservation easement?
Because we might have more money.
Okay,
And,
okay,
but there's a whole variety of different
right,
pots of money that are available. So yes, you're correct. Someone might go with the Colorado Cattlemen's
they can
Association.
shop around.
Or the Central Colorado
Come
Conservancy.
on, man,
Well, that's
that's
I
hard.
was- I was giving them the softball and I'm getting ready for the home run.
So landowners can shop around and y'all are just one of the
Yes.
options. Okay, cool.
And what's in it for the tax break?
Money.
You actually pay them, did I miss that
Yes.
part? Okay.
Now, if you really wanna get into how conservancies work, that's not my strength.
Yeah.
Okay.
And how landowners make it valuable for themselves, that's really not my strength.
I'll do a work session with you some
Okay.
point about conservation easements.
And how it's beneficial and a variety of different things. CPW, what we're good at is fee title acquisition, so if somebody wants to give it away. The second thing we're good at is if they are interested in hunting and fishing access.
Cool.
And they wanna work with us. The third is we partner with a group such as Central Colorado Conservancy. And I think the monies that we put into this easement, and I don't have all the specifics in front of me, but we helped it work. But we really weren't the main, how it got done was through Central Colorado Conservancy.
Cool.
And that was before my time.
Yeah, it's out on 91.
And it's the headwaters. Yeah. It's by
It's on
your
the
house.
right.
It's right by my house, yeah, one of the neighbors, there's two access points, right? One at mile marker one at 3. The one at 3 has no parking at all.
No, it's just a
Parking at
bend.
the top of the guy's driveway.
I think it's 600 acres. Yeah, the easement.
600 acres.
Wow.
And that's the larger, broader easement. And so CPW just has a portion of for the recreational
On a
access.
quick side note, since we're in that area, I
You're
woke
on that
up
side.
to 3 giant moose looking in my bedroom window.
Cool.
Literally looking like peeping moose.
Peeping moose.
And then I read later that they can charge, they think they're seeing another moose. So we watched for a while and then I finally shoot him off, but that was crazy.
Yeah.
They
You got a
just,
little moose up there.
they just stood there, yeah, there's tons of moose.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
There is tons of moose up in there.
I don't have any predators or hunting, sorry, I'll get you sidetracked.
No, that's fine. That's what I'm here for.
Predators or hunting license to start, I mean, at what point do they become too many?
Well, we do hunt them, and that's our main way to manage them. And I think we're pretty fortunate that I am not aware of, moose get hit up here, but it's not every year, is it?
We had one last year.
I've been up here.
Yeah, 91 in front of Jeff's house.
Yeah. So we do hunt them, they do get hit by cars, they are expanding their population. So,
Yeah.
and as they do, we will expand our hunting. And then we're kind of fortunate, I think folks up here do pretty well around moose. I mean, right now there's a moose in transit from Colorado Springs to Marshall Pass. So, we know we gotta get them out of urban areas and things like that, but I think people are everywhere. But we don't have a lot of issues with moose up in here, which is good.
One more quick side note,
Sure.
I got chased on the bike path between Copper and Frisco. I got it on video.
That's a different area.
By a moose?
Chased,
Well, that's
I couldn't,
terrifying.
I just punched it because I couldn't get around him.
That's
He
so
put his
scary.
ears back and went boom, boom, boom.
If a moose puts its ears back, you better get going, yeah.
Yeah.
I could outrun him. Anyway, sorry.
I like that there's a moose in transit right now.
As we're speaking.
I wish I had a Google location to watch the moose in
You can see
transit.
the moose slowly moving.
Yeah. Do wolves? Cause it seems like they'd be easy to get, and take down, maybe I'm wrong.
Moose?
Yeah, a wolf, a wolf.
I think packs will target individual moose,
Okay.
but I don't know if an individual wolf would attack
Yeah.
a single moose. They would certainly attack a calf though,
Mhm.
so.
On the subject of predators, last year after that person got attacked sitting in their hot tub by a big cat, I read somewhere that Chaffee County and I think Lake County as well had some of the highest density of big cats per square mile. Is that accurate?
I think we are bordering that area, so that what I understand it to be is the Arkansas Hills, as you're driving down 285 from Buena Vista to Salida and then taking that left down into Canyon City, all that country on your left as you're driving down, that is where some of our highest densities are. And it's mesas, dry with good deer populations. So mountain lions really are, they're a keystone predator, but they're really focused on mule deer.
Excuse me.
So, they really are dependent on deer, and Lake County isn't that great a deer country. There is deer around, but it's not that fabulous. But once you get into BV and that country and down into Canyon City
Slay,
and Mesa,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of deer.
so. This is a brook trout that we caught while just sampling after installing the signs. We wanted to look at it and got out there, and I encourage folks to go and use it. I understand you brought up a parking area. And so, we are intentional in our actions. And I'm understanding that some of the landowners around there are not very happy that suddenly the public can go in an area that they might have had almost exclusive access to and go fishing or do whatever they want.
Yeah.
The other thing about Lake County is that property boundaries are an issue. So one landowner might believe that their land goes here, and a different landowner might have a very different idea of where that land goes. And from with that parking lot that you specifically mentioned, it's, how do I describe that road? It's not really a road that goes down in there. It's just been allowed by the current owner of the easement, Bird's Eye is their name. And excellent landowner, he works so well with us. And what we try to do is we almost limit our parking so that we limit the number of people that are really using it. So there's better parking down below, but at that one, we really didn't wanna put in a really developed parking area. And then to let you know what our next management goal is gonna be, is just to look at it and see how the public's using it, and then we can modify the size of the parking lot or something like that.
Very limited use in my estimation.
It's small brook trout, but it's a lot of them, you will catch a lot of fish, it's a
Yeah.
fun place to go.
Yeah.
So. I unfortunately can't see my next slide on this one, so I always am surprised like you. Alright, I thought I had a slide in here that listed all of the state wildlife areas in Lake County.
Huh.
So I'm gonna try and do it off the top of my head. Help me out, Jackson. We have the ready. It starts with, what's the first one coming up? Granite that leads into the Hardeman. We got the Paddock. We got the Arkansas headwaters. Am I missing any?
I think that's all of them.
The Paddock, where is that?
That's east of town. It was, used to be Jim Moyer's, and similar thing to the Headwaters Ranch, he gave it to us, and it's managed very specifically as well. It's you have to be hunting big game, during the specific seasons, and fishing is only allowed in certain parts of the ranges in there. But yeah, it's kind of it's not one big giant property, it's kind of checkerboarded on the east side.
Do you mind showing us on the map? Or on any of these maps?
Is that Federmalta substation?
I think the one.
That one's the most zoomed
East of
in,
that.
the one on the far left is the most zoomed in.
So, kind of up in this stuff.
Yankee Hill, Iron
Yeah.
Hill.
And like I said, it's kind of checkerboarded in there and goes all the way up to Empire Reservoir.
Okay.
It's kind of the top end of it, and then there's different sized pieces of that property all the way on basically the whole east side.
How do you actually manage that? There's lots of different pieces.
Well, it's kind of a pain in the
Billion
butt
different
because there's a
aspects.
lot of people that live up there and there's a lot of mining claims and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff up there, so there's a lot of roads that have just been made.
Yeah.
And I was actually talking to the Forest Service not that long ago, and they wanna go up there and see which ones they want to adopt and which ones they wanna try to shut down and some of that kind of stuff. But during the hunting seasons, mostly whenever we're in there checking hunting licenses, that kind of stuff, I go up there a few times in the summer to look for bighorn sheep and that kind of stuff, and if people are on there, just remind them of the rules and that kind of stuff.
Very specifically managed.
Yeah, very,
Like it's
yeah.
only open at certain times and
Yeah.
like I say, you have to have a valid hunting license for that unit and for a species
Yeah.
that's open.
What is that unit, 48?
That side is 49.
49, I always forget it, okay.
Okay, I can talk very fast for 22 minutes and I can go, I know you're on your own schedule, but I'm gonna do my best.
Yeah.
And I know we're here
You're
now
doing great.
to talk about wolves. I've been in several times to mention wolves, because wolves have moved through Lake County. And they have been here, not for an extended amount of time, but they have been here. And it's just part of my role is to make sure that we kind of normalize them and their presence and know that there's, even though we've got a lot in media and social media going on about wolves, that, we're still trying to be out in front of the whole question. So I'm here to answer questions, of course, and I'm gonna go through a whole list of things. The first thing I wanna talk about is our callers, because I think it's important to understand our callers and how they help us manage wolves. They record a position every 4 hours. And once they have recorded 4 of them, they transmit. But if there's any mistake in any of that stuff, then they delay themselves. So we can definitely have failures to upload for several days. We'll have a wolf that's running around, and if they have a collar issue, they're mechanical devices, and wolves live pretty short, violent lives. So they can fail. And again, even when we get good uploads and good data, it only tells us where the wolves have been, it doesn't tell us where they're going. And it's not at all predictive. So our callers, they're okay data. And when I first had access to the collar data, I looked at it every day, several times a day. And now I look at it much less frequently because it's just not as informative as I thought it would be. And why we only take 4 positions every 16 hours is there's a trade-off. We've all got phones that can tell everybody where we're at all the time, but we can plug our phones in every night. So it's a trade-off between battery life and number of points.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, we can change our points in our uploads. We can't make it upload. We can't give it a signal that says upload right now. We can't do that, but we can change the programs a little bit so they upgrade or upload more frequently. But the trade-off again is the battery life's then gonna diminish very quickly.
You have to manually do that from the collar then?
We can do it from the satellite, so we can give but we can't tell it what, like we just can't say, hey, we wanna know where you are right now.
Yeah, you
That
can't
doesn't work
ping
out.
it.
But we can program it, once it uploads, it can communicate and then it'll speed up.
Like the Mars rover.
Yeah.
It's exactly like the Mars rover.
It's just, it doesn't take the hours and hours and hours to get there.
Century, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to hit them at the same spot. Anyway, so if they're in a canyon, if they're under forest cover, if they're underground, we do not get any type of satellite, any kind of collar data. And then all of a sudden it'll pop up and all kinds of points will come up. But anyway, it's important to understand our collars they're not quite what people think they do because they don't record all the time. The other thing about collars I just found out, which is very interesting, is that wolves can only handle sedation in the dead of winter. They will overheat in the summer, so that there's only a limited window where we could go back in and recollar wolves. And those are in the Januaries and February months.
What do you
So
mean they can't handle sedation in the, like, tell us more about
they
that.
can't, when we sedate animals, it's very difficult, they can't regulate their body temperatures quite like we do. You know, we can sweat, we have this
Yeah.
very efficient way of cooling our bodies, but animals don't. They do it through their respirations and stuff like that, like your dog.
Yep.
And so yes, there's times where we just can't sedate animals, or we gotta provide so much oxygen. And animals do die under sedation. It's not uncommon. You know, we're not surgery.
Yeah.
So
That's so
it's
interesting.
like that deer I was showing, it was probably sedated for under 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we put a reversal in and off they go. So, and
Okay.
they are able to do that.
Oh.
This is one of the black wolves, and you can see the collar down below it, so they're not very large also. So we get a lot of reports of wolves around. Lake County's famous for all the wolves that are reported up in here, but I really think it's that there's a lot of people that visit and live here that have either wolf hybrids or huskies or Malamutes, all that kind of stuff. That is not a wolf. So we publish these every month. These are our wolf activity maps, our collared gray wolf activity. And you can see that Lake County is in this circle. So that circle that donut that's sitting there is one female from British Columbia. She was brought in January, and I think she's on her 3rd loop. She doesn't leave the state, but she gets pretty darn close to leaving the state. And she does these big circles all around.
She's looking for some?
We don't know.
Sorry, I'm.
She's looking for a mate, right?
Yeah, right.
Could be. She's one of the, I think she's 4 or 5 years old, which is pretty old for a wolf.
Yeah.
So, but she's obviously gotten close to other British Columbia wolves that probably, and I don't know this is a fact, but maybe have been in her same pack, I don't know. But she just keeps going, so she keeps doing it.
Aren't they pack animals?
Yeah, they are pack animals. But what we're doing with them is we're dumping them in a landscape that they're unfamiliar with, so even if they're a pack animal, they're not staying together, they're doing all kinds of weird stuff, they're just moving
They're
around.
normalizing to their new.
Yeah, so,
That donut is wild.
and then, I'm not an expert in wolves and behavior, but I have heard that when wolves encounter each other and they don't know each other, it's not always a friendly get-together. So, they are, they'll cross paths and no other wolves are in the area, but they might not seek each other out because of the dangers involved.
Is that Wolf Creek where that tiny sliver
Oh,
in the
yeah.
southeast?
Yeah.
Why
So-
is that?
So the collars are just, we don't show precise stuff, the wolf
Mhm.
hasn't been everywhere in those areas. It's just showing the watershed, that they've been in a watershed, so,
Oh, okay.
when we show Lake County in there, your guys' watershed is huge, so as long as it comes somewhere down on the valley floor, then it's gonna show up, so this 2516, when she came through Lake County, came down through Twin Lakes,
Yep, she come right down the creek.
and then she crossed over and came down into Pine Creek, which is near Chaffey County, and did some stuff. So you'll see all of Lake County's lit up,
Yeah.
but I told you where she just came, so it grabbed all of that drainage.
That's in just a
Yes, ma'am.
month?
Yeah.
She made a circle in a month?
Yes,
Holy
and
moly.
that's her third one.
Holy
So
moly.
she's on the move. She's at something like 13 or 1400 miles and counting, and still on the move. So what one of the biologists said, if she had known a straight line back to British Columbia, she'd be back
Yeah.
right now. So,
Oh, poor thing.
real quick with agricultural impacts, we know there's gonna be agricultural impacts. Our goals are to prevent conflict, to minimize the conflicts and damages, to compensate for damages caused by wolves. And then the very last is to control. If wolves, if we can't change their behavior at a certain point, we control them, which is to kill them. And we've had one wolf that was deemed to be a chronic depredator. It had killed multiple livestock, and it was removed from the Roaring Fork Valley. So our deterrence and hazing, kind of like what was our first step, is we of course we wanna promote wolf restoration, that's what we've been charged by the voters to do. But what we really wanna do is change their behaviors by having deterrence. And here's all the methods that we do. We do site assessments, so we look at people's private property, and we try to identify the threats that wolves might cause on their agricultural productions. And here's where Jackson helps me. I know we've done one up in here, have we done more than that?
Yeah, we, that day we had Slida, we had 2 or 3 folks come
Okay.
up, and then I've done a couple since then.
So we've had a couple, the one thing about Lake County, and I don't wanna speak for everything that's going on in Lake, like I haven't worked up here, so, but we don't probably have a lot of cow-calf operations until they're brought up here. So we don't have calving happening like in the winter when wolves are on the hunt.
Yeah.
But they do bring them up, and so we know that they're down in some of the more flat areas. And really where I believe that we'll have conflicts with wolves in Lake County is where people are grazing cow-calf pairs, and it's an intermix of forest, BLM, not much housing around, not many people around. So those are probably the areas that we're gonna have issues. I passed a herd that was down there on the flats, on Hayden Flats, and I look at them and say, I don't know if the wolves will go through all those subdivisions to get down in there. We'll see, I never say never. But we've established a range rider program, we're managing carcasses on the landscape, those are bone piles where ranchers will put their dead animals. Increasing human presence in these vulnerable areas, calving and lambing areas are important. We have this stuff called fladry, it's electrified fence with flags on it, so that can be useful for some time. And then, of course, when we identify wolf dens or something that's called a rendezvous site, we try to avoid those, we try to make sure there's not livestock in that area. A rendezvous site is where a pack will get together and do what packs do, socialize, do whatever. We also have scare devices, and of course, we have a guardian or a herding dog program going on right now, so we provide, the Department of Agriculture will provide guard and herding dogs for free to agricultural producers, but no dog is free, and these are big dogs, I think they eat an cuttable amount of food, so. Given the dog is easy. And then of course, the last one is we do remove chronically depredating wolves, so wolves that have been found to be unable to stop eating livestock, they'll get removed. We do have permitting that we do, so we allow for permitting, it's something called non-injurious hazing. So those are loud noises, and anybody can do this stuff, fox lights, cracker shells, things like that. If what an ag producers might potentially injure a wolf, then they must obtain a permit, and it's typically rubber buckshot or paintballs, things like that, that we know to not have a high potential to kill a wolf. And then of course, like I said, we do have a chronic depredation permit. Our compensation is, our goal is to have fair compensation, and then we define livestock that can be compensated by wolves as only this specific stuff. So there's other livestock and definitions of livestock that are more expansive than this. For example, you're gonna see that chickens are not on here, or turkeys, or geese. Like you will not get compensated if a wolf kills your chicken, which is the incident. The chances of that happening are very slim, very, very slim. You won't get compensation. So it's just these, this livestock that is up there. And then what most producers are going through is the itemized production losses. That includes indirect losses, so like decreased weaning weight or decreased conception rate. Either the calves that they're bringing off range that include wolves are smaller, or else that the cows that, let's say they're just not conceiving at the same rates that they had before because of the stress of a wolf being on the landscape with them. So. In terms of depredations and conflicts, in 2024 there was 27, and in 2025 there are 10 confirmed depredations. One of the other things I'll point out too is that a guard or herding dog can be compensated for if it's killed by a wolf, but a pet dog killed by a wolf will not be compensated for, nor any of the veterinary bills. So
that makes sense.
Wolves are gonna interact with people and their dogs. A lot of people ask me, well, what if a wolf is attacking me? Obviously I can't kill it, and that's a fallacy. It's, we've got pretty broad laws about if you're being attacked by anything, that you of course can defend yourself. So it's the same with a wolf. But a lot of people will ask me like, hey, I will be out in the woods and a wolf's gonna attack me, and no, one is the chances of a wolf attacking you in the woods are pretty slim. And secondly, of course, you can defend yourself, so. And then of course, anybody that that's an agricultural producer, if a wolf is in the act of, so it's killing or injured any type of livestock or working dog, so, and then that, we define it, like what is attacking, so it's actually biting, wounding, grasping, or killing, then a producer could kill that wolf, if they actually saw that happening. They are within their rights to do that.
If they're attacking a companion animal, you can't though?
So where are we with what they're doing? So there's, in January of 2025, we knew there were 29 wolves in Colorado, and in June, 6 months later, we know there's 23. So our British Columbia wolves, I wanna say that already 5 of them have died of the 15 that were brought here. So a couple died in one or two died in Wyoming and across the border, and then there's been some other issues. Wolves kill wolves, mountain lions kill wolves. Wolves will be killed by the prey that they're trying to kill, so elk kicking them or deer kicking them. Moose certainly kicking them will kill them. So there's a whole variety of different things that, like I said, they have relatively short lives. We think that they live 3 to 5 years generally in the wild, so it's a pretty short existence. And then in terms of their dispersal potential habitat, we really do feel that as long as the habitat and the ungulate population will support them, and there's also this social component also, so what will humans do with wolves in their presence also? But we do believe that they'll be in these habitats. I don't know what's gonna happen in Lake County, but we've already had 2 or 3 wolves move through this area. They haven't really set up shop, but they are exploring and seeing what the habitat is like around in here. They have killed animals they are hunting and eating, doing what they're supposed to do when they're in Lake County. So, I don't know what the future holds, if a pack will establish here or not. So, and then our other caveat is that we're kind of at our peak of collaring. So it won't be, we know that one pair of wolves has successfully denned and that there's cubs out on the landscape. And then we have indications that there's an additional 3 to that, but we haven't seen any of those pups. So we're at the peak of our collaring right now. Our goal is not to collar every wolf that is in Colorado, but to try to collar those dominant pairs. So it will not be long before we don't know what wolves are doing and where they're dispersing. And I would say they disperse broadly and quickly. Jackson might help me out, but I watched Salida a little bit closer, but if you know where the wastewater plant is in Salida, it's kinda as you're going out of town. A wolf came right down to that on the Arkansas River, and we've also known that a wolf has crossed down here in Granite. And we know that there was one west of Turquoise, and that same wolf was up in Highway 291. So people are in Colorado and they're in Colorado, so we know that they're bouncing around and doing a variety of different stuff. They're federally and state protected. They are an endangered species. So a lot of people ask what will happen if wolves are removed from the Endangered Species Act, and in all honesty, in the state of Colorado, nothing really will change with their management. And that's because they'll still be a state endangered, a state protected species. So we're the ones managing them right now. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is a partner to us, but we're the active manager of them. So really, a federal designation doesn't really change what happens here in Colorado. And then a lot of folks will ask too about the hunting of wolves, and my point is they must be removed from the Federal Endangered Species Act, and then a future Parks and Wildlife Commission must reclassify wolves as a game species, and that's not expected in the near future, or if at all. We'd have to have a seismic change in the politics of Colorado for there to be hunting of wolves, but who knows? You never know. And this is not a Colorado wolf, that's just a picture from Alaska or Canada, but we do know that there'll be agricultural conflicts and there'll be recreational conflicts. People and wolves will interact, and some of them will be positive interactions and some of them will be negative. I looked at some of the statistics in some of the areas where wolves are relatively common, and in this state, it's probably Minnesota that has a pretty healthy population of wolves and people, and wolves kill a number of dogs in Minnesota, specifically hunting dogs. So I don't know Minnesota's laws exactly, they still might be able to hunt raccoons or bears with hunting dogs. And at that point, you'd have a dog running through a landscape in pursuit of another animal. And wolves are territorial and they've set up packs. And I know that at least in Minnesota, where they keep records of them, that they kill quite a few hunting dogs. So I don't know what that will mean in Colorado for people that are just walking their dog or letting their dog run through the forest on their own. And just as a caveat, a hunting dog in Colorado is not a protected animal. It is not a working dog. So if a wolf were to be killing someone's hound, there's no recourse. I believe this is the end of my presentation. So I'll answer any questions, or we can talk about anything else you'd like to talk about. You got a minute and a half.
I have 4 minutes.
That's good.
Over. That was fast.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at different things. I was speeding up.
Don't worry, it's this one too. You got 2 minutes there. That was really fascinating, thank you.
The other thing is, if you would like to talk with Tom Waters, who's the HRA park manager, let me know and he can come up and do kind of the same show.
I think we saw some of it at CCI. the Colorado Counties Inc., whatever, they came and did a presentation to like our region, the commissioners of our region
Oh, good,
in December.
okay,
It
who was
really
that?
interesting. There were
Was it
three,
CPW?
there were three folks, somebody
Okay.
from CPW,
Oh.
maybe two people from CPW, I don't remember who that was.
Okay,
And it was really interesting to hear the commissioners, were you there, Matt, were you in that room?
I don't think so.
It was really interesting to hear the commissioners
there.
from, you were in that room?
Yeah.
From the,
Yeah, there was a lot of pushback on that from other counties. There are some really upset rural counties about the whole program. And, you know, I mean, there's two sides to everything. I get what they were saying, but man, there's those guys got a pretty hard time at that presentation.
yeah, it was fun, it was wonderful to listen to people who have more agricultural, like, happenings in their county.
Yeah.
So. We don't.
we don't.
We don't. I don't have any questions.
No, thank you for the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm always available, and if you want more information on something different, let me know.
Thank you.
We are still working on easements up in here, in this area, possibly, so we don't ever know where things are going. People kind of contact us and say, hey, this is what we'd like to do. And sometimes Colorado Parks and Wildlife can partner, and sometimes we're not the best fit, but we try to do our best.
Very cool.
Thank you, Sean.
Okay,
Sean, maybe
I don't-
Jackson.
good night, Jackson. I gotta keep this, cause I gotta bring it
Oh, yeah,
back to you.
here, just,
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Jackson.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
of course.
Goodbye, you guys.
Bye, Emily. Bye, Wendy.
Yeah.
Alrighty, moving on. Next agenda item. Overview and discussion regarding the state of childcare in Lake County, led by Lawrence Snyder, Deputy County Manager. Lauren, you're still on mute too if you're speaking yet.
Wanna text her or something?
So do you want me to come drive our slideshow?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I submitted it to Lauren, where would it be saved?
Let's see. Oh, maybe it's in Teams.
Oh, it's, looks like.
Are you not to do? I wanna cut it also. Alright, I'll put still in, so.
Okay, I put it in presentation mode, can you all see it?
Can you make that, all that go away?
Three buttons.
Or how do I make this
Yep.
go away?
And then hide.
Third from the bottom.
Great, well, I can talk.
Go for it.
Great, thank you all for joining us, so we're gonna present on the overall state of childcare in Lake County. And we're gonna start like from the biggest regional view and then work our way down to the smaller points. So, we're first gonna talk about the Rocky Mountain Early Childhood Council. Stacy Petty is online and she will be presenting on this area and how that covers us regionally. So I will let her take it from here. Let's see, there we go.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm sorry I can't be there in person, but there's been illness running through my house and I didn't want to share germs. So decided to join online. I am the director of the Rocky Mountain Early Childhood Council. I am a resident of Lake County, but my region goes from Leadville to Aspen. So we currently cover Lake Eagle, Garfield, and Pitkin counties. Our work is really to help improve the quality of early care and education settings and to implement state work and programs such as Universal Preschool and Colorado Shine's Quality Rating and Improvement System, amongst others. We provide some system level supports, including some quality improvement and coaching funding for providers to participate in these funding opportunities. And what we have found is that continuous quality improvement is something that is exactly that. It is continuous and happens year over year. That being said, councils in the 24-25 fiscal year took a $3.5 million budget cut across the state. We're taking an additional 4% budget cut for this next year, and budget cuts are anticipated to continue for the next several years at a minimum. Funding is limited, and with some of the changes with the current presidential administration, we know there's a lot of uncertainty about what is going to happen, but we also have seen that there has been continued thoughts about early childhood as an essential service and continuing to fund that, but we keep getting budget forecasts that show the state is anticipating continuing budget shortfalls in the next few years. For those reasons, we know that local investment is really important because we know at the federal or state government levels, there isn't going to be enough funding to allocate to help early childhood providers be able to charge what the true cost of care is. So they will always, it seems, have to be able to charge families what they can afford to do and try to pursue grants and other opportunities to help fill those gaps. We currently have 2 licensed child care programs, Bright Start and the Center. We had a licensed home provider, but she is currently closed due to some health reasons. And then we also have some family friend and neighbor care. We know of at least a couple of those providers, but they often, for a number of reasons, kind of try to hide from us because either they're operating illegally over the limits they're allowed to, being unlicensed, or maybe they're worried about deportation and some of those kinds of things happening with ICE. So it varies, but there's some great work happening with FFN, Friends, Family, and Neighbor Care with Build a Generation that you'll hear about here soon. So currently, as far as licensed care, we have slots for about 135 children in licensed care, but there is no licensed spots for children under the age of 1. It's a hard business model because you cannot charge what it truly costs to operate and do so at a really high level where you're able to pay people living wages and make your overhead. So currently we're seeing in Lake County costs amongst licensed providers in the $50 to $60 a day range. And if we were looking at charging the true cost of care, it essentially would be double that and be somewhere around $125 a day is what we find. So again, just having to balance what families can pay how do we have funds that help support tuition assistance to help fill those gaps, because there are some tuition assistance programs like the Colorado childcare preschool CCAP fund that hits a certain maximum, and we call that the cliff, where if you make $1 over, you don't qualify. So how do we work to fill some of those gaps as well? But also pay a livable wage. And we know that is a struggle in Lake County, where housing and some of those things have become a real challenge because they're so expensive. I believe I mentioned a constant pursuit of grant funding. So we might want to go on to the next slide.
You got. Did you have anything else, Stacy, you wanted to add it before we move on to the Childcare Coalition?
I don't. Is Cruz in attendance to talk about the coalition, or do I need to talk about it?
Nope, she's here.
Oh, great.
So, well, Cruz, I'll let you introduce yourself and you can take it from there.
Okay. Hi, my name is Cruz Ramirez and I work for the Childcare Coalition Facilitator. For the Lake County Builder Nation, it's a nonprofit organization that is building a movement for health and well-being in our community. We focus on equity and systemic change, working alongside local partners and community members to address root causes of health disparities. The Child Care Coalition started back in 2021 in response to the existing and worsening child care crisis. Currently in the coalition, we have several representatives from local organizations such as Stacy Petty, Lisa Roeder, Desiree Trujillo from Brightstar and Miles, Marisela Marquez and Yadira Renteria, who are FFM providers, Brandon Reynolds from Project Dream, and Linda from Full Circle. So right now we have 2 FFM providers identified, and many parents must turn to caregivers, such as relatives and friends. For right now, since we identified these FFM providers, and we try to help them to get the license, but since they couldn't get it because it's a lot of barriers for them, since they don't have a lot of space in their homes, since they don't have all the requirements for them. So we started the missing piece back in 2024, so that helps them to get assistant teacher diploma for them to work in a center or a Brightstar or another center that they can work for instead of providing the home care. So we're working on that for right now, and we still want to continue helping other providers, identify other providers to help them in whatever they need to keep doing their education, or if they want to get the license. But since they don't get a social security number or IT number, I think it's really hard for them to do that. So that's why we did this program. So we hopefully continue doing this to help them.
Nice.
As of right now, the Child Care Coalition has been working with the tourism panel, and now has a MOU to use a percentage of their funding of ECE project. We also had the ECE fund was established in June 2023, and currently it's helping in the Lake County Early Care and Education Fund. Also, the fund is used to continue the teacher credential stipend and tuition assistance for families.
Yeah, that's done, doesn't Stacy Petty? Stacy, don't you manage a lot of that early child care fund?
I do. I and a committee, I'm part of a committee of 4 people in total that manage that fund. in the first year of the fund, as you all probably remember, there was still some ARPA funding that was available. So both the city and the county contributed collectively $130,000 towards the Lake County Care and Education Fund, and then we received a $35,000 grant from Climax Mine. But then ARPA dollars ran out. So this year we have a $40,000 grant through Climax. That grant went up a little bit. We also received an additional $6,000 grant from Lake County Community Fund for their grant giving. And then we have had some donations to that fund, but given it was such a reduced amount from 165,000 to roughly 46,000, our focus this year was on continuing credential stipends for all teachers working directly with children in the birth to 5 space, as well as tuition assistance.
And how much of the fund goes towards tuition assistance versus
So we were required to spend 15,000 of our Climax grant towards tuition assistance. That was the stipulation, and then we actually exceeded that a little bit with donations and some of those things. And then credential stipends came in at around 24,000.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cruz, did you want to address some of these other things that are on the slides here for you all with after school funding?
Well, yeah, we have the after school, well, I don't think we managed some of that, but
Well, I think overall, like in threats to childcare as a whole in Lake County, after school funding is something that threatens all of us. But on here, and some of the other folks at Build a Generation helped fill this out. But ultimately, these programs do far more than provide any academic enrichment. It allows Bright Start staff to stay at work for the entire day. It allows many of our employees here at the county to stay at work, and provides safe care for children when they otherwise might be getting dropped off to a house that doesn't have any adults in it. So I think there's a lot of concern about after school funding getting cut and how that is going to impact the working community in Lake County and in the safety of children after school overall. So just wanted to touch on that. We had, Lauren sent some questions that you all had provided, and that was one of them. And then as far as work requirements coming on board for Medicaid, I think a lot of this we're speculating, right? Like we don't exactly know what this is gonna look like, but we can imagine the world, what this looks like. So our most vulnerable families will be facing an additional barrier. Some parents have had to leave the workforce completely or change jobs to meet the needs of their family due to childcare and lack of childcare. We also know that when you work for minimum wage, it does not cover the cost of childcare. So families who are vulnerable and need Medicaid coverage, who already do not, maybe due to childcare, they are not in the workforce, forcing them to go into the workforce creates a higher need for childcare in Lake County that folks are unlikely to be able to afford. And then I think Cruz already touched a bit on some of our FFN providers and their fear and concerns surrounding deportation and that being a barrier to becoming a licensed provider, as well as wanting to put their services out there. The more their information is in the community, the more I think threat that is seen. Am I missing anything on here that you wanna touch, Cruz?
I mean, that's all of our in-home care providers, but that's not just like childcare providers.
Right.
It's also that's also care for the elderly. A lot is done by immigrants. Yeah, okay.
And there's no licensed infant care in Lake County, so the home infant care that is being provided by family, friends, etc.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a great pulse on exactly how many of those folks are undocumented, but I think we can imagine that this is a real threat to the childcare that is being provided in Lake County, that help keeps children safe, even without being licensed. And we wanna acknowledge the value and the fear there. And then Cruz already kind of went through what the Child Care Coalition does, so that's kind of the county-wide approach to childcare, so that we're all rowing the boat the same way, working together, trying to meet different needs. I think we don't currently meet all the childcare needs in Lake County, but that's why the Child Care Coalition is there, to help connect the group together. Do y'all have any questions before we move on to Bright Start?
Not for me, thanks.
Can you pause for a second? I just want,
Yeah.
Okay. The first three are positives. There are
Yes.
opportunities.
Yes.
The next 7 are weaknesses. And one of the 3 positives is actually under threat. 2 of the 3 positives are
Yes.
under threat. So
Yeah.
at least we've got a strong community. At least there's that.
Yeah.
And friends and family are providing care at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we can all acknowledge the stress that puts on the system and all of us.
Yeah.
So today I am here not as the public health director, but as the Bright Start board president. So we're gonna talk, oh whoops, Cruz, I forgot you have another slide.
Already.
Okay, great. Would you like me to pause for some reading here?
I think the what I asked about this is more of like the not local government. It is our larger impacts. What kind of lobbying is being done by BAG and the Child Care Coalition to our state legislature? That is really what I'm curious about, so we can hop on board and be partners in it.
Cause for right now, I think we have only the tourism panel that it's
That's us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm
Okay, so
asking
that's-
statewide lobbying, because a lot of the funding that goes towards after school programs, childcare, Bright Start, CCAP, that is not, we don't have any control over that. So lobbying to us is like, that's great, but we are similarly strapped and we do not determine where that state and federal funding goes. So I'm wondering where what lobbying is being done by BAG to the state legislature and the federal legislature, so that we can be on board with that and be partners in trying to advocate for that funding.
I think I could speak to that a little bit. There isn't, we aren't doing, so the council, the Rocky Mountain Early Childhood Council, is very involved with state legislature, every legislative session, working alongside the Children's Campaign as well as the Early Childhood Council Leadership Alliance, who is our state level membership organization. Looking at legislation that's being proposed and seeing how we can advocate for continued funding. We have had some successes over the last few years at talking the Joint Budget Committee out of cutting funding. I've testified at JBC sessions, as have colleagues of mine, about the importance of the funding and why it should not be cut. And we've been successful in heading off those cuts. That being said, with some limitations with Tabor and some of those things, they aren't seeing opportunities for the possibilities of new funding streams. I think the closest we got was universal preschool, which was passed as part of nicotine taxes a few years ago. So beyond that, I don't think there really are new funding streams being considered right now. What we're doing is fighting to keep what we've got. Because they were talking about cutting Head Start. They were talking about cutting early intervention and so many things. So the focus has very much been about how do we, in a budget crisis where this fiscal year, Colorado had to cut over $1 billion from their budget to balance. And luckily we didn't get cuts more than the short of 4% that councils received. So it's really been more of a focus on keeping what we've got. I do think though the great opportunity at BAG is maybe looking at, sorry, I've got barking dogs, looking at maybe some opportunities around special tax districts or things like that in the next few years when we think maybe those would be well received. Adam Ducharme with the tourism board really spoke well that he feels now is not the time when there are struggles with tourism in Lake County, but keeping our finger on that pulse in case that tide changes a little bit. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, a little bit. Thank you. I mean, a lot, Stacy, that answered a lot. It's the bigger, there's also the bigger picture, like helping our representatives understand how Medicaid affects childcare, how deportation affects childcare. So like, it's not just about the funding, it's about all of the stresses that are being put onto our childcare, and it's not just directly CCAP money. So
yes, I work
ahead.
with Julie McCluskey and Dylan Roberts in the legislature about all of those things as well, making sure they stay up to speed. I sat on the Senate floor listening to hearings this last session. And we are in constant contact with them about these different issues and making sure they understand how they impact everyone. Of course, one of the ways we saw there be impact when early intervention was facing a $3 or $4 million shortfall, it impacted one of the senator's children. And suddenly that made it connected with them more personally. So we definitely are working with them to try and help make those personal connections, try and help bring those very specific stories to give them some context so that they understand how this impacts things.
Thank you, Stacy.
Okay.
And we do have a policy committee at the council. If anybody ever wants to join, we meet during the legislative session.
Thanks, Stacy.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the bigger picture of childcare before we move on to more organizational childcares? Great, just wanted to give you all a quick glance at Bright Start and kind of where we came from and how the future's looking for us. Bright Start closed during COVID among obviously all of the other childcares. However, Bright Start was already facing a lot of issues that were probably going to force it to close during that time. So that was actually a bit of a blessing because then it allowed Bright Start to reopen in October of 2021 in a much more stable spot. We secured ARPA funding, got an entire new staff, new director,
and have been able to do a really good job complying with licensing since then. The previous version of Bright Start pre-pandemic was struggling with licensed staff, was struggling to stay open. Teachers were making $13 to $14 an hour. It was rough, and the future was not super bright. But now it is. Bright Start is unique because it is the only licensed childcare that is open year-round, open Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 5:30, which accommodates a full workday, and doesn't close over, we do have some holidays, but doesn't close for like large summer breaks or winter breaks. We're currently licensed to serve 25 children. Again, we do not meet the infant care need. Licensing for infants is really cost prohibitive and challenging to comply with, so we have not yet been able to get into that age group. But we're licensed to serve 10 children, age 1 to 2.5, 15 children, age 2.5 and up. And then since we made this presentation, we actually opened a third room on yesterday. Today's Tuesday. It was on Monday for preschoolers. And that room, I believe, is mostly full of kids who are on summer break from the center.
20 kids. Licensed for 20 kids, ages 3 and up, I believe.
Yes. So that's really cool. We were able to work with our licensing specialists to get that room licensed and open, and that's been a big project and we're really excited. Build a Generation also was a heavy support in that, so thank you. We are currently located in the school district administration building, which is formerly Pitts. We have 8 full-time employees, which is wild considering when we reopened in October of 2021, we had 2 full-time employees. It was a director and a sub-director and 7 kids. So we've come a long way. Our 2025 budgeted operations expenses are at $525,000. And we currently have 27 kids on the wait list. That has probably improved since our third room has opened and we made this.
Well, July 1 is when new kids are gonna start rolling
Okay.
in. So this week is just like a transition for the 3 rooms, and then the kids will start rolling in next week, which is really exciting.
Cool, and then we'll talk about our pressing issues. Megan is our board treasurer, and I'll let her talk about our funding and landscape a little bit.
Alright, so we currently have like 2 big issues that we're working through right now. The first is we're operating at a deficit. So far in Q1, it was an average monthly deficit of $18,000 a month. The reason for these deficits, there's a couple of main reasons, but the first is funding. We've lost a significant amount of funding this year. Previously, we were between 50 and 60% grant funded, and so far in Q1, we were 5%. And in historic years, our big funds came in Q1, so we do not anticipate any of those to be replaced at this point. So that has been a big hit to us, obviously. Then the other thing is we are fully staffed for the first time, which is a great thing, but also costs a lot of money. So we put a lot of investment into our teachers. We've had really great teacher retention. We have a new director that came on board last summer, and she's just doing a phenomenal job with staff. So our biggest fear before was retaining staff, and now it's, when we're fully staffed, it actually costs a lot more money, which is great, but it's hurting our budget. And then the last is we're trying to remain affordable. So the definition of affordable childcare at the federal level is 8% of your income. And currently our tuition is right around that for the median of Lake County. But it is lower than most other places. To cover our deficit in tuition alone, we would have to raise it 53%, which would obviously put it out of reach for most families.
I'm sorry, you would raise it 53%, which would make it a 12% of somebody's
I don't know if that math works like that. It'd be a $500 a month increase. I think it would be more than 8%.
You wouldn't double it, well, whatever, so
Yeah.
it's a significant part of somebody's income.
Yeah.
I remember it being 100% of my income. If I didn't have a partner.
Yeah.
It would cost me to go to work.
Yeah,
$8 a day.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's how it is unfortunately for a lot of people.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When you're paying, I would say more market value, which Stacy touched on. I mean, Bright Start is not market value.
Right.
We do that intentionally, we're trying to do that intentionally.
Yeah.
So our current plan to help with the operating deficit, well, first of all, based on all of our Q1 numbers, we had enough cash reserves for 7 months of operating as is. That's due to us saving some of like the ARPA funds that we've received in past years. So we do have some cash available to allow us to sustain for 7 months as is. We've done a pretty big review and reduction of unnecessary expenses to help with that. Opening the 3rd classroom, which as you guys all heard, we open on Monday. So that is with current staffing, so we don't expect our expenses to increase much, maybe a small portion for food. But other than that, our staffing expenses should not decrease. So any new tuition we get from this 3rd classroom is going to be taken straight off of our operating deficit, so that's huge for us. We implemented a new grant tracking system so that we don't miss any grants, and we have a board member that's dedicated to fundraising now and to help our director and assistant director ensure that we are applying for any and all grants that we possibly can apply for. And then we are going to also do a small tuition increase this summer, hopefully in August or September. And roll that out at the same time that we roll out the scholarship applications for the LCECE fund, so that we don't lose any families with this increase. So the hope is if the tuition increase makes it unaffordable for them, that the scholarship can just come in and push it back down to the same price that it was at. So that is.
How likely is that? How likely is that?
That we would have enough funds for that?
Yeah.
We don't really know. We were really surprised last year when we rolled out the scholarship that not that many families applied. Like we anticipated a lot more families applying. And so we're not sure if it is just a barrier that people aren't coming forward when they need it, or if there just wasn't as much of a need as we anticipated. So I think we were able to help 5 families last year with the scholarship. And we'll see. We don't collect income data when students enroll, so we don't really know the need. Like we know what families qualify for CCAP, and we know what families are who are vocal about needing assistance, and we help them where we can, but we're probably missing people because they're not vocal about it.
Well, and with a 3rd classroom, maybe you'll be able to serve more folks who will need it.
For sure, that's the hope, yeah. So we'll see, there's definitely other grant opportunities for scholarships. Those have not been our number one thing that we've been going after right now, because we really need operating costs at this point, but you know, if we do see a higher need, we'll definitely put that higher on our radar for other grants. Other concerns we have, LCSD changes.
Yeah, I think we're pretty tied to the school district right now because they provide our location. So that does not give us a lot of flexibility in some of our general operating. It's very much like when they choose to do something with pits, sell it, move everyone, we are really attached to them for our location right now. So we do have a pretty big grant out to help with some location expenses, congressional spending, right?
Oh, yeah, there's 2 that we have out right now that we've moved forward in both of them. One was the Brittany Peterson one, it was like community something projects, and then the congressional spending, which were through other people, but both of those we have not been cut from, which is really exciting. Like we're still moving forward. I know it's a long ways, but we haven't been cut from either of those, and both of those we're still like in the bills for over $1 million each on both of them. So there's potential of $2 million, you know, if it makes it all the way in the next year, however long it takes to get there.
The funding still exists.
But yeah, that's pretty exciting for like the new location, which I guess I can just segue into that. So the second issue that we're dealing with is location. So there's talk of Lake County School District selling pits. They're not 100% sure what they're doing at this point. We've received confirmation we can stay through the summer of '27. But after that, we are unsure where we're gonna go. So, we've had a lot of conversations of moving to LCIS. The quote that we got back in order to do the renovations to make it licensable was $3 million, which kind of makes it not an option anymore after we got that estimate back. Initial estimates were 1.5 and we were pretty excited about that, but then the true estimate came back at 3. So stay in Pitts, if it gets a new owner, if the school district holds on to it, we don't know, that's definitely an option for us. I know there's like a feasibility study or some kind of estimates happening right now on renovating Pitts for other uses. I'm not super in the know on that. Others in this room might know more than me, but.
There's a hazmat study for what hazardous materials are going
Okay.
in that building.
Yeah, I know there's something happening right now to understand costs of some renovations to that building. And then always in the back of our minds, we're talking about potentially just a standalone new facility build, so we're not dependent on, other organizations to keep our doors open. As we mentioned, we've applied for a couple of congressional grants, and then we have been having some conversations with some private donors. So, we're not anywhere near that at this point, but we are having conversations. And then we're always open to other ideas, so if anyone hears of new buildings or spaces that a childcare facility could go into, we are all ears.
And I think on here, were you gonna ask a question, Melissa?
No, go ahead.
Okay. A concern is also any changes to universal preschool, which is our state program. We actually receive more tuition funding by being a UPK provider. They pay us a significantly higher rate than our tuition for those kiddos. So that has helped us out a lot. And then we've been working really closely with DHS to be a better CCAP provider and also have more families enrolled in CCAP who qualify for CCAP. We now have 2 dedicated slots at Bright Start for CCAP kiddos, which is something that hasn't been there in the past and is how we also wanna work to serve that community. And this is the most amount of CCAP kids we've had in 5 years, so Human Services is also doing a great job at getting those families enrolled.
You actually have both slots filled?
Yes,
That's awesome.
and a third
I think a
CCAP
third,
kid
yeah.
Oh, nice.
that is just in a regular slot.
Nice.
But CCAP pays the regular tuition, so.
Yeah, so the increase in tuition is gonna be more money from the CCAP, which is good.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to click that.
So you all have 7 months left of funding. And you have a building that you are very unsure of that will cost millions of dollars, no matter what. Whether you move a new facility, LCIS, or stay in Pitts, it will cost millions of dollars.
Yes.
Okay, just
And
wanna
we
make sure that we're funneling this down into like that's pretty urgent.
Yeah,
in my mind.
and regardless of what we do moving forward, we have a pretty good arrangement with the school district right now, so I anticipate our monthly expenses to increase with whatever our new situation is, because most likely it's gonna be more for rent or payments or utilities or whatever it is.
Does that mean that you have like a buy when date that you'll have to close then?
Well, this is all
What's the
based on Q1 numbers, our Q2 numbers are already starting to look better based on some things that, some changes that we've made. And the third classroom, has the potential, if we're able to fill it, to get us to operate without a deficit.
Oh, amazing.
But that's a big if we can fill it. There's still conversations of, maybe switching, so we have 3 rooms right now, one is infant and then, one is toddler and then 2 are preschool. There's talk of changing our second room into a toddler room. You have to go through the whole licensing thing again, it's not like a quick switch. But if we do that, we know that there's a need for the younger kids, maybe more so than there is the older kids. So that could be a shift that we're talking about maybe doing in the next couple months to serve the 1 to 2.5 with 2 rooms, and then have the 1 preschool room with 20 kids in it. But we're still kind of seeing how it's all gonna shake out. We've been waiting for months for this room to be able to open, and we just finally got the stamp of approval. So, the whole wait list, we're trying to groom now to see who actually is still interested, and we just don't really know how everything's gonna fall.
Yeah.
think we feel good enough about our plan that we're not like, this is the date yet,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
would be, this is like.
Sounds like you're gonna be able to extend that 7 months
Mhm.
regardless, because you can open up the third room.
Yes.
Yeah, no matter how many kids are in there, it'll extend.
For sure, every kid is $1,000, well, it's even a little more than that, but every kid's $1,000 off of our deficit, so, that's huge.
Great, yeah.
And also I always like to keep in perspective, and before we started receiving ARPA funding in 2022, I had just come onto the Bright Start board as the treasurer in December of 2021, and we had like $3,000 total and didn't know if we were gonna make payroll.
Yeah.
So, this feels less scary than that, and like we have a lot of things out there that haven't failed yet that could really help with our operating
And
costs.
we have a lot of grants that we've applied for in the last couple months, and I am very hopeful that some of that money is gonna start rolling in from private organizations, which will also really help. And we met with the school district last night, and the school district was kind enough to waive our rent until October, and then in October, we're gonna sync back up with them and do a financial update. So we have not paid any rent at all for 2025 for them, and so they're waiving it from January to October, and syncing back up in October, which is like about a $15,000 relief for us, which is also amazing.
And our biggest funding losses have been pretty local, so we were getting around between the city and county like $64,000 a year of ARPA funding, which I know no one's getting ARPA funding anymore, we know it just doesn't exist anymore. And then we were also getting additional funds from the childcare fund that could be used for operations that are no longer in the childcare fund anymore. And then DHS had previously been able to give us about $27,000 of TANF funding, which is temporary assistance for needy families. But the way that funding is allowed to be spent has changed this year, so they can no longer, they were helping us pay salaries to give quality childcare.
Yeah.
And so we also lost that $27,000. We are still getting most of our other grants that we were relying on, but some of our biggest like funds for operations were local, and that's what we have lost.
Got it.
Yep, cool. Any other questions? Great.
If we do get to the point where we were like, here's the date, alarms are going off, do you guys want us to come back? Or
Tell us.
Okay.
Sure.
I mean, hopefully we don't, and hopefully we are like headed in a good direction, but it has been pretty eye-opening this year, cause nobody was anticipating losing everything that we lost. Like, we knew the ARPA funding was not going to happen, but we did not know that the community fund and the DHS funding, like, we did not anticipate losing all of those, and it added up to a very significant amount.
What happened with the community fund? I don't understand that.
It was, well, Stacy talked on that earlier,
Yeah.
it was funded by the city, the county, and Climax previously, and this year was only funded by Climax.
But that was ARPA funds that the city and county were putting into.
Right,
childcare.
so, yeah, so that just means we didn't have the money to give, so I think they thought it was a little more sustainable. They didn't realize that it was funded by ARPA funding. First year is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, we did not realize.
This is actually how I
just
learned right now today that was funded by ARPA funds.
Got it. Yeah, I think I found out a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
I thought just the city and the county chose not to fund it anymore, so it was great to find out it was ARPA. But you know, sometimes that's not always transparent, you just know that you're getting it from, you know, the Lake County Community Fund, and it was funded by city, county, and Climax, and
Got it.
yeah, so tracing some of these funds back are crazy.
Got it.
Great, and to give the full scope locally, we also have Mary here from the center.
Yes.
Our other licensed provider. Mary, I'll let you go first.
Awesome. So my name is Mary Jill. I'm the business manager for Lake County School District, and I'm attending at the request of Tanya Lenhart, who is the new preschool director, because they are having orientations for preschool families for next year today, so.
Mary, do you mind coming up just because Andy's on Zoom? Just so he can hear you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
For sure. So the Center Early Childhood Programs was founded in the late 80s, has evolved over decades. So we have a lot of experience with braiding together whatever funding we can get from all kinds of places. We are located in the brand new and wonderful Lake Cali Elementary School, which is just an amazing place. If you've never visited and seen this indoor playground, you may gasp, because we still gasp, and that's more than the first year here. We do follow the Lake County School District calendar. We operate Monday through Thursday. We are closed, as was mentioned before, during the summer for summer breaks, for Thanksgiving break, winter break, spring break, things like that. Preschool hours generally are 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's when Head Start hours are. UPK hours follow that schedule, just depending on what an individual family's award is from them. And then we are open from 7:30 in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and there are a few spots available for extended daycare for that. Our revenue sources come from Head Start, which is a federally funded program through the Department of Health and Human Services, state funding from the Department of Early Childhood, which we talked about the Universal Preschool Program, UPK. We do collect from tuition from families, and we do get some smaller grants from private funders. The biggest one right now is the Temple One Yule Foundation, which is about $35,000 a year, and they've been supporting us for decades. They have a great support for early childhood. You may want to talk to them. They're really nice to work with. Yeah.
They do fund us. 35,000 though, we should talk to them.
So we mostly are known for our preschool program, which is for children who will be 3 years old by October 1st of the program year. So they have a 3-year-old year and a 4-year-old year in preschool, and then when they turn 5, they go to kindergarten. So it's a school readiness program. The other newer program we have is our Early Head Start Home Connection program, which is actually a home visiting program. We serve pregnant moms and families with kids from birth to 3. The home visitor does an hour-and-a-half visit every week for child development, family goals, connecting them to services. There's also socializations. There's 2 socializations a month where all the families in that Early Head Start program can get together. Sometimes it's at the school on the playground, sometimes it's at the library, sometimes it's at the park. They've visited the swim square place and got some water safety things. It's great. Christina Revelis is our home visitor, and she loves working with families, and they all love her, which is so great. For the preschool itself, we have 5 classrooms open. We serve up to 16 and really try to keep it at 16 for a total of 80 spots. Our license, I believe, is for 132, which would have filled the whole wing of the building. But with decreasing enrollment, we did from this year go from 6 classrooms to 5. Bless you.
Yeah, thanks.
We also serve children who are on individual education plans, so that's special ed services. And that can be everything from speech therapy to health needs to other developmental things. And the money for that now comes through UPK for 3 and 4-year-olds. Thanks. So our goal at the center is to use all of these different funding sources, braid, blend, layer them together to just keep costs for families as low as possible. So every application is evaluated for every program. Everybody who comes in, it's reviewed for Head Start eligibility, UPK eligibility, just everything we can possibly do to put people in there. We also have, as part of our programs for families, we receive funding for meals from the CACFP program, that's Child and Adult Care Food Program. It's similar to free and reduced lunch kind of funding, but it's just a different organization. And when families meet the guidelines for free and reduced lunch, we do offer a sliding scale for tuition based on that. Employees of the school district receive a discount on tuition. If families have more than 1 child enrolled at the center, they are offered a discount, and scholarship funding as available, so we are getting some LCECE funding. Last year, our total award from that fund was $66,000, and $36,000 of it went directly to families for tuition. And I have to tell you, that was a great gift for families. There were actually, the funds had to be spent by December 31st, and there were a few families who unenrolled in January because they couldn't make it without that. This year, we're getting $10,500 for a scholarship, and so that'll go from August to December, and just as many families as we can serve with that. So through these different programs from Head Start and UPK, there's very few families who pay the full tuition rate. Sometimes if a UPK family has a 15-hour award and they wanna come 24 hours, they just pay the extra. We just try to keep the out-of-pocket costs as little as possible. You did mention that sometimes last year, there was an application process required for families to receive those scholarship funds from the LCECE funds, and we did have a little trouble getting people to apply for them too. I think there was some misunderstanding of the income level. They made it intentionally like 300 or 400% of poverty, so just every family would be eligible, but people kept saying, no, I won't qualify for that, and we're like, no, please come see us. And eventually in like November, it got to the point where we were going, look, we might have to give this money back if we don't spend it. So do you want it or do you want us to send it back? And they were like, oh, okay. So we ended up spending it all. But it did, I do think there's also maybe a perceived stigma, like I don't need assistance. I don't want to apply for anything. But in the beginning of the year, we hit them pretty hard with that application, asking them for everything we need for everything. So they're kind of used to hearing it from us. So we were able to use all those funds directly to families, and they did appreciate it. And just the stipends that they gave to staff based on their credential level in the Colorado Shines program was very effective, very appreciated by staff, and had this great bonus of getting them to increase their credential level through the professional development on there, which was great because I had run out of ideas for that kind of stuff. So money talks for sure. Our big challenges right now are recruiting the staff who meet qualifications required by funders, specifically lead teachers. Head Start standards require an associate's degree to be a lead teacher, and so we do have a number of teachers who don't meet that requirement, and we have to get waivers through the department, through the Office of Head Start in order to keep them there. Tuition rates can be barriers for families to accept spots. The new UPK program serves mostly 4-year-olds. There are some 3-year-old spots available that we can assign based on qualifying factors that people put on their applications. The 3-year-old spots that we can assign are only 10 hours, so it's not as much of a benefit to families. There used to be a program, Colorado preschool program was replaced by UPK, and the eligibility factors were different, and we were able to actually offer more hours to families in CPP because just the qualifying factors are a little different. And the past couple of years, I don't have exact data on this, but it does seem like there's more families of 3-year-olds who are declining their spots at the center based on that they know it'll be free when they're 4, so they're just like, oh, we're gonna wait a year. And I'm not sure how much it actually changes their tuition, but that there's a mindset shift that happened from CPP to UPK. Navigating changing funding landscape, you guys have talked about that quite a bit. And CCAP, supporting families with navigating this process and system. For the past several years, we've had no families on CCAP at the center, and the feedback from that is mostly navigating the application process. In addition to that, Head Start spots, like once someone qualifies for a Head Start spot, and some of those are full day spots, instead of 9 to 3, they can come up to 40 hours a week. And once you got a full day Head Start spot, no one wants to go apply for CCAP. So it's just, why would they do that? So I feel like we're serving families that are most in need, but it's not necessarily through CCAP. Once upon a time, I did work for DHS and process CCAP applications. And at that time, I don't know if it still exists, but there were some requirements for single parents to cooperate with the child support enforcement system in order to qualify. And for a variety of reasons, that was the end of the process for a lot of families. I don't know if that's still one, but it is an application process, like a lot of programs are. I usually, when I do presentations, talk about our services to families and things like that, but we're getting close, and I know that this part is mainly what you were looking at. Do you have questions about how we put things together, things like that?
So if 80 kids are served through the center, and you all serve
Officially licensed for 44 now.
44.
It was 25 last week though.
Do we know what the need is in the community? Like how many kids are we missing?
Well, one statistic I look at to see how many people come to the center is to look at kindergarten enrollment.
Yeah.
And so consistently, it used to be about 80 or 85% of kindergartens, kids came through the center. Now it's a little bit less because there is, Bright Start and things like that. But it's consistently between 60 and 80% of the kids enrolled in kindergarten, come through the center. And then there's always a few people who just moved to town over the summer, like they weren't eligible. We currently don't, there's a little bit of a wait list for last year, at the end of the year. Right now we're at about, I think it's 63 out of the 80 spots are filled for the fall. So it's, some people, choose more of a homeschooling, some people use friends and family. I think there's a lot of families who want to be home, have a family member home with their kids. And so they do crazy things with work schedules and make it work, for financial reasons and for other reasons as well. I don't know what other things you guys look at.
I mean, I think the big gap still is the under one. Yeah, and that's on our radar. We wanted to get this room open, and then we've been talking about like the potential of getting, we might even have the space, but seeing what it's gonna take to build it out and license it and that type of thing. So it's definitely something that's on our radar. But that's for sure the biggest need in the county when it comes to childcare.
Does CCAP cover infants?
No idea.
It's childcare, it's based on, families need to qualify because they need care for a job or job training or school. So that's the other thing, it's not child enrichment or brain development, it's an economic thing for CCAP. So they qualify for infants, but it doesn't only go to licensed providers. And we just talked about the family and friends network. They're not generally, there are some home providers that are eligible for CCAP, but again, you have to get care, just like, it's not for the faint of heart,
Okay. Wow. Thanks, Gail.
The only other thing I would share is estimates are that there's roughly 400 children birth to 5 in Lake County. And I agree with what Mary said, that not all families pursue childcare, or they pursue it in different ways with friends and family or in other ways. But I agree that the gap is infant and toddler care, which we see across my region. It isn't just a Lake County thing. We see these similar gaps across the region. So estimates are generally that we can serve about 40 to 50% of the kids in any of our counties.
Okay, and we're about like at a quarter, a little over a quarter right now.
The other gap I see is not everybody works Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, right? So people who work in the evenings, people who work on weekends, I mean, we're making it, on the budget that we have, but to expand, it would
be huge.
That would be a big project, for sure. Even we close at 5, Bright Start, I just read, closes at 5:30, so someone who works in Summit County or Eagle County and gets off from work at 5 and has an hour to an hour and a half commute, especially in the wintertime, needs to make other arrangements for their children to be picked up. But every hour that a center is open, you're paying that many people that extra time. And I know the center used to be open, at one point they opened at 5 in the morning. There was actually 24-hour, 365-degree care at some point during the late 80s and early 90s. And you have to pay for it.
Oh, thanks, y'all.
Yeah, thank you.
Are we your last ones?
You're our
You guys
last
done?
ones. You're our last ones.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for all the work you're doing, not only coming to the presentation, for actually doing the work.
Yeah.
We're still taking applications for fall, and there are some Head Start spots, like those free spots open. It's just the eligibility factors are, it's based on federal poverty level, which is unrealistic for families in Lake County to exist on that. Things like, but there are other
Is it a certain percentage above it, like how, like the funds, or it's like the federal poverty level?
So it's 100% of poverty level for sure. There is a housing adjustment that is new for Head Start, that if families' housing expenses exceed 30% of their income, we can adjust that part at the top and take it off when we're doing it.
So
There
that's
are some-
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not making as much of a difference as we thought, like it's a lot of work collecting everybody's electric bill and sewer bill and like it's a lift on families, it's a lift on staff and it only helps the people who are right there on the edge.
Yeah.
Some Head Start spots are open to people who are up to 135% poverty level. Another new thing is if a family is receiving SNAP benefits currently, they can qualify categorically based on that. Because it's another federal program and they feel like they've gone through that process and so Head Start can use that. And that's actually 200% of federal poverty level. So I'm kind of considering having a SNAP rodeo and see how many people,
So the more people we can get enrolled in SNAP, then it
will
can kind of just
benefit
be a
Head Start
pass
as
through
well.
into Head Start. That's awesome.
Also foster kids, families who are experiencing homelessness and qualify for services through wraparound, through McKinney-Vento, they're eligible for Head Start services as far as categorically eligible. We don't need anything more than a note from wraparound that says they're eligible for services there.
Do you all work with our DHS director then
We
give a
mostly
pipeline?
just do with wraparound because they're in the building where I work.
Yeah.
So it's down the hallway, here's your application.
Yeah.
Mike Adler, who's the director of out-of-school programming, is also has a direct line with wraparound. So that was one great thing when we got early Head Start. It kind of helped us all because wraparound can serve families that are homeless when the baby's born, but they didn't have any means to get kids lower in age than preschool age. And so our recruitment for early Head Start actually helped them identify some families with that as well. So it's been a great partnership, yeah.
Okay, that's great, thanks.
Should I stop the recording? Do we have to say anything?
That's up to Andy, Andy's here.
Are we wrapping up?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, well, that concludes today's work session of the Lake County Board of County Commissioners. Thank you, everyone, for coming in. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, staff.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stacy.